He grinds until his bones ache. Taking a break isn't an option, especially when this twisted universe spawned him as a bottom-tier 1-star unit. Survival here has an expiration date. You either get ripped apart by dungeon mobs, or you get fed to a higher-tier character as upgrade material. 1-star units are literal cannon fodder. We are talking rock-bottom base stats and 0 special abilities to fall back on. That is the cursed hand he was dealt. If our boy plans on breathing tomorrow, he has to shatter his own limits. He swings his blade relentlessly, desperately trying to outscale the other trash-tier characters so he doesn't end up as somebody else's XP boost. The crazy part, he was not always stuck on the front lines. Just days ago, he was the god behind the screen, ruthlessly sacrificing units himself. He was an absolute menace at this gacha title. His actual name, Han Sojin. Now he is trapped inside an unforgiving RNG simulator. The game is known as Pick Me Up, and the ultimate goal is conquering the 100th floor of a brutal tower. Clearing it demands galaxy brain tactics, endless resource farming, and hardcore min-maxing. Back in reality, he was just your typical hardcore gamer. The system ranked champions from 1 to 7 stars, completely locking their max potential behind rarity. Despite dropping thousands of dollars into the gacha pit, my dude never pulled anything past a 5-star unit. Then a rumor dropped about a brand new raid. Supposedly, it had a microscopic drop rate for an item that could uncap a character straight to 7 stars. Obviously, he instantly locked in. But this title featured hardcore permadeath. If a unit died, they were gone permanently. Playing it safe, he deployed a scout squad to test the waters. He stacked the team with 5 maxed out 5-star champions. Yet the second they crossed the threshold, their fear meters spiked off the charts. Sojin completely ignored their panic animations. He just needed boss mechanics, so he forced them deeper into the shadows. Out of nowhere, a dark silhouette materializes and absolutely wipes his elite squad in seconds. The entity flashed a terrifying level, 999. Sojin froze in his gaming chair instantly, assuming he had triggered some game-breaking glitch. But as he stared at his monitor, the shadow snapped its neck toward the camera, flashed a twisted grin, and whispered that it found him. Then his entire reality glitched out to black. When his vision returns, he is staring straight at the account creation menu. An unknown player registers the username NING and boots up the intro stage. Before Sojin can even process the madness, he gets dropped directly into a blazing village, currently getting swarmed by goblins. Without warning, a screeching monster sprints right at his throat. This might feel like a fever dream, but his survival instincts scream that dying here means dying for real. He perfectly sidesteps the lunging blade and counters slicing the goblin down. Scraping through the tutorial alive, he steps into the iconic main lobby of Pick Me Up. Floating text alerts this new noob player that their free gacha pull is ready. Sojin watches a blinding animation trigger, dropping an insanely rare 4-star champion right onto the summoning pad. Watching her materialize, a chilling thought hits him. Was he literally dragged into the code the exact same way? The armored girl officially introduces herself as Shay Lathisteri. Instantly, their invisible commander groups them up and tosses them straight into the next battle zone. Thanks to that massive rarity gap, the knight absolutely speedruns the dungeon, leaving our 1-star guy entirely in the dust. His lack of damage is not his fault, but it is definitely about to ruin his life. The final tutorial step requires combining units. Sojin starts sweating, knowing he is totally cooked if he gets tossed into the upgrade slot. Suddenly, the system fairy pops up, commanding him to enter the synthesis chamber. Desperate, he blurts out her actual name. The fairy freezes, genuinely stunned, and demands to know how a piece of code recognizes her. He drops his real identity. She frantically scrolls through the game logs, completely bugging out because his data does not match the generated unit. Realizing the matrix just broke, she starts absolutely losing her mind. But the system sequence is already locked in, so she ruthlessly orders him inside anyway. Invisible forces drag our boy into the chamber, and the sequence initiates. This mechanic forces players to merge 2 champions, beefing up the stats of the survivor. The catch: the secondary unit gets entirely deleted from the server to feed the main one. This is exactly why Sojin is panicking. He is sitting next to a premium 4-star knight. Nobody in their right mind would keep the trash tier guy over her. By some absolute miracle, this new player is actually brain dead. They misclick, selecting the 1-star unit as the base, and feeding the ultra-rare knight to him. Even Sojin is left speechless by this negative IQ move. Before he can process surviving, he gets warped into a dim staging area surrounded by a bunch of random dudes. Looking around, every single guy in the room looks just as clueless and terrified as he is. As the panic starts spreading, a glowing fairy floats down from the ceiling. She casually announces that their commander just cracked open the dimensional gate. Translation: it is time to spill blood. The recruits stare at her like she has 2 heads, demanding to know what she is. The tiny guide smirks, claiming she runs this sector. She warns them to shut up and fall into formation unless they want a quick game over. Totally ignoring the red flags, a beefy ex-mercenary storms right up to her face, screaming and demanding to know if she kidnapped them. When she gives him the silent treatment, the dude draws his broadsword and literally threatens to slice her out of the air. The fairy just flashes an icy smile. In a fraction of a second, the mercenary's head rolls across the floor. A cold system alert instantly pops up on the interface. The system confirms he's dead, but get this, the guy literally ended his own life, just from the sheer mental pressure. Total panic erupts in the room. The fairy immediately capitalizes on their fear, laying down a cold warning, pull a stunt like that and you're done for. While she's yapping about the rules, the unseen master is already dragging and dropping them into a team setup. Squad number 1 drops with 5 clueless rookies. They're totally in the dark, but with 0 options left, they just have to follow the fairy's brutal lead. Right before they march into the portal, our boy Han steps up. He looks the fairy dead in the eye and asks if she actually plans on clearing this tower. He demands that the master hook them up with some gear. They're just bottom-tier, 1-star units right now. Walking into that gate empty-handed is basically begging for death. They've already lost a precious 2-star asset, so bleeding out more units makes 0 sense. Catching his drift, the fairy flashes a prompt up to the master, giving him a quick tutorial on how to equip his fodder. Seeing Han take charge like an absolute boss, some random guy nervously asks if he's holding back any insider info about this hellhole. Han plays it cool, claiming his memory is foggy since it's been ages. The red-haired girl catches that slip-up, her eyes narrowing as she wonders if he's a returning veteran. He cuts the chatter and tells everyone to grab their steel. The timer is ticking and blood is about to spill. Cue absolute hysteria. These guys are civilians who haven't thrown a single punch in their lives, but Han somehow talks them into picking up some basic starter weapons. Shaking like leaves, they approach the portal only to realize the dead 2-star's body has vanished into thin air. The fairy screams at them to stop stalling and move their feet. Terrified, they cross the threshold one by one. Meanwhile, the redhead keeps her eyes glued to our boy, noticing he's rocking a trash-tier wooden shield. She starts grilling him, desperate to know what nightmare waits on the other side. Han totally dodges the question, bluntly telling her that her only job right now is to butcher whatever breathes behind that gate. Suddenly, a relentless string of system alerts pops up in his vision. The kill feed is live. Every single rookie who just walked in has been wiped out. The redhead spots his face drop and frantically asks what's happening, but Han immediately shushes her, demanding absolute silence. The fairy is absolutely losing it over this pathetic wipeout. Fuming with rage, she instantly summons the next batch of sacrifices. This time around, Han and the red-haired archer are on the starting roster. Some boomer in their squad starts crying about his fragile bones to get out of it. The fairy literally raises her blade to execute him, but the redhead snatches him out of the danger zone just in time. Stepping through the gate reveals a massive ancient temple acting as a transit hub. The system is booting up, beaming them straight to floor 1. Han barks at the squad to lock in. Things are about to get incredibly messy. A split second later, they drop into a massive, desolate wasteland. A nasty pack of goblins is already glaring at them from across the dirt. 3 dudes in the squad absolutely lose their minds in terror, and instantly bolt in the opposite direction. A vicious red debuff flashes. Fear has gripped them, slashing their stats by a brutal 30%. Too bad for them, the game doesn't allow cowards. They slam face first into an invisible barrier. There is 0 escape. The redhead instantly reads the room. Trapped like rats, she turns to Han, asking if slaughtering these green freaks is their only ticket out. He gives a grim nod and the duo teams up. With her hunter instincts, she falls back for ranged support while Han aggressively pushes the front line with his sword and board. Here's the crazy part. Despite his ice-cold aura, Han has never been in a real bloody fight. He screams at the girl to keep her eyes locked on the mob, if she wants to make it out breathing. Mid-swing, he figures the so-called master probably misclicked while trying to use him as synthesis fodder, or the guy is just straight up clueless for picking him. Either way, dodging the meat grinder was pure luck. Suddenly, the girl breaks formation to save a downed teammate, but Han violently snaps at her, ordering her to stay focused on dropping the remaining monsters before they get overrun. Out of nowhere, a goblin sinks its filthy teeth into his shoulder. Han doesn't even flinch, he just brutally bashes its skull in with his wooden shield. He might be totally clueless about how he got dragged into this hell, but he is dead certain it traces back to that horrifying level 999 shadow entity that locked eyes with him earlier. After a grueling bloodbath, the final goblin hits the dirt. The redhead starts stressing over his shredded arm, but he brushes it off like a scratch, reminding her the system will auto-heal them back at the lobby. See, this gacha game is completely auto-battle. The units are entirely on their own once the swords clash. Yet it's insanely popular because players get to sit back and play God over these pixelated lives. And honestly, Han used to be completely addicted to this exact game. But he wasn't just some casual free-to-play scrub. He was an absolute titan, the number 5 globally ranked legend known as Loki. The clear screen flashes. The girl levels up, loot drops are announced, and the system rightfully crowns our boy as the most valuable player of the match. Floor 1 was an absolute meat grinder. Out of the entire squad, only Han and the redhead are walking out of there alive. Fast forward a bit, and Han is finally coming to terms with this nightmare. He knows whining or throwing a tantrum isn't going to fix his respawn issue. Instead, he hard resets his mindset, going ice cold to process the brutal truth. He's been isekai'd straight into the gacha hellscape known as Pick Me Up, spawned as a pathetic 1-star unit. And in this brutal world, you only exit in 2 ways. You either get slaughtered on the battlefield, or you get fed to a stronger unit as upgrade material the second your master thinks you're trash. With that horrifying reality check, the clock is ticking. He has to grind and scale up immediately, or he's literally going to be recycled into pixels, and that pure primal fear is his ultimate fuel. Our guy enters an absolute grind state. Being stuck with a 1-star ranking means his base stats are complete garbage, and leveling up is an absolute nightmare. So slacking off just isn't an option. Slapping level 5 barely scratches the surface, so he continues to push his physical limits. This brutal routine gives him major military flashbacks. He knows damn well that staying breathing out here demands an iron mind and a titanium body. This fantasy hellhole, it is literally just another war zone to him. Right as he is crushing his final rep of push-ups, the archer girl pulls up. She hits him with a confused look, asking why he is going so hard, and he drops a stone-cold truth, getting shredded to slaughter monsters. She confesses she has been doing some heavy soul-searching too. After spending the entire night wide awake and spiraling, reality finally clicked. There is zero way out. Whining will not save them, so locking in is the only viable play. Snatching up her weapon, she reveals her dad was actually a pro hunter, which totally explains her insane built-in instincts with a bow. To prove she isn't all talk, she casually sinks an arrow dead center into a dummy's skull. Han is genuinely blown away by her raw lethal talent. Peeking at her floating system interface, he realizes she has already hit level 2, flexing some highly solid beginner marksmanship. She has even dumped the 4 attribute points she snagged from the previous day's bloodbath. Sure, her loot drop was smaller than his, but her mental fortitude and exclusive abilities are totally elite. The craziest part, she shook off the psychological horror of watching people get butchered almost instantly, a trauma that usually shatters most rookies. Respecting her grit, he agrees to carry her through the grind. She holds out her hand, quoting her dad about how a solid squad is everything. He pauses for a second, before finally clasping her hand to seal the deal. A system ping pops up, confirming she is hyped to party up. A bit later, he summons the guide fairy. She materializes in a flash, looking incredibly salty, and barks that she is swamped with work. He immediately roasts her, pointing out how fast she showed up for someone who is supposedly slammed. She fiercely bites back, refusing to be his personal search engine anymore. Completely unbothered, he drops a bomb. Is he the only player who can see the floating stats right above her head? Homegirl visibly panics for a split second before playing dumb, but her glowing interface completely exposes her insane rank level 257. When he calls out the massive number, she stammers out a pathetic excuse about a visual glitch. He isn't buying that garbage for a second, confirming his theory that he possesses a totally exclusive vision skill. Then he hits her with the ultimate hypothetical. What happens to them if the big boss logs out forever? The tiny guide absolutely loses it, warning him to pray that day never comes. Her explosive freakout accidentally leaks way too much intel. Pushing his luck, he asks if the time dilation here is out of sync with Earth, causing her to throw another massive tantrum. He happily takes her screaming as a giant yes, and casually drops a thank you, which pushes her rage meter to the absolute limit. But our boy stays ice cold. He already figured out the system prevents her from attacking unprovoked. He commits to decoding this twisted reality, one puzzle piece at a time. Because if he doesn't evolve fast, the system will delete him through either a brutal death or forced assimilation. The archer girl walks back over curious about the argument, so he drops the harsh truth. Their only ticket home is conquering all 100 floors of this cursed tower. The mysterious overlord issues quests through the ferry, and failing these objectives means an instant game over. The weight of the situation crushes her as she realizes endless bloodshed is waiting for them. He nods, confirming that is exactly why he has been sweating blood in training. He casually mentions that their unseen boss will definitely drag more clueless players into this mess. Basically, their entire existence hinges on some random person sitting behind a screen. Through all this, our protagonist has cracked some core mechanics of this sick game. Rations and basic supplies magically refresh every 24 hours. Manifesting items by simply thinking about them spawns the gear right inside their dressers, though the system heavily restricts spawning heavy firepower, like firearms. He also discovers a brutal reality check. Grinding workouts won't boost your overall level. It strictly buffs your stamina and passive techniques. Any minute now, the boss is going to rank the entire squad based on 3 strict criteria: mental toughness, combat mechanics, and raw physical power. Knowing damn well he is a physical powerhouse, our boy decides to min-max his body. He enters a psychotic training arc grinding for 3 straight days with 0 sleep. The second, the Overlord finally boots the game back up. Our guy is practically glowing with confidence, having unlocked 2 brand new abilities entirely through pure sweat. The boss immediately spawns in 3 fresh 1-star rookies to max out their 5-person squad. These newbies instantly lose their minds, absolutely refusing to accept they are about to be thrown into a monster mosh pit. Following orders, the fairy triggers the portal. When the crybabies try to resist, she literally backhands them into unconsciousness and violently chucks their bodies through the rift. The freshly assembled squad gets teleported straight to floor number 2, greeted by a brutal wipeout mission. The rookies practically wet themselves upon locking eyes with a pack of level 4 dire wolves and twisted level 3 goblins. Their absolute terror triggers an instant stat debuff. Even our usually stoic archer girl starts sweating bullets. Our boy violently snaps her back to reality, ordering her to clear out the goblin trash while he aggroes the deadly wolves. With the useless rookies completely paralyzed by fear, the duo is forced to carry the raid alone. 2 massive beasts lunge straight for his throat. He perfectly catches the impact with his shield and swings back, but his rusty trash tier sword fails to secure the one-shot kill. Not that it matters, he just flexes his raw brute force and literally cleaves the beast straight down the middle anyway. Out of nowhere, his killer instincts flare up as a second wolf ambushes his blind spot. He rapidly repositions his shield for the block and thrusts his blade. But the mutated dog is scary, smart dodging mid-strike to expose his guard. Catching the monster suspended in midair, our guy explosively dashes forward and permanently ends its run. The intense clash leaves him completely gassed and dripping in sweat. Pivoting instantly to check on his teammate, he realizes she has totally dominated the 2 goblins without breaking a sweat. He glances at the pin-cushioned goblin corpses and taps her shoulder. Hold your fire. They are already dust. A glowing blue screen pops up out of nowhere, stage cleared. Golden light showers them as they level up, crowning our boy as the undisputed MVP. But before the loot even drops, a blinding flash warps the squad right back to square one. They materialize in the lobby zone. Without a single second to breathe, a system alert flashes, warning them to gear up for stage 3, and the ground violently quakes beneath their feet. The archer starts hyperventilating, her eyes darting around the room. He keeps his cool, breaking the bad news. They are being fast-tracked straight to floor 3. Glancing back at the 3 clueless newbies trembling in the corner, he curses their so-called master. Throwing 0-level scrubs into a high-tier dungeon is pure suicide. Right as the dread kicks in, the system chimes. The master just disconnected from the server. A massive sigh escapes his lungs. They dodged a bullet. Poof. The guide fairy spawns in, immediately throwing a massive tantrum about how utterly drained she feels. He runs the math in his head. The next zone is floor 3, but with the player offline and the lobby's time dilation moving at triple speed, they have roughly 3 full days of downtime. Han swipes open his stats, smirking as he realizes he has hit level 6. His strength stats are completely jacked up. He clenches his fists, feeling that raw, upgraded power coursing through his veins. Sheathing his blade, the peaceful moment shatters. The 3 fresh recruits corner the archer, screaming in her face, demanding answers about this twisted death game. Han just watches them, realizing the harsh truth. 1-star heroes aren't warriors, they are just random civilians snatched off the street. Suddenly, the top-tier elitism makes perfect sense. Drop a 1-star into the bloodbath and they freeze. Drop a veteran in, and they start swinging. It clicks. That is exactly why the knight had that confident smirk before she bailed. Exhausted from babysitting the crybabies, the archer trudges over to Han. She desperately begs him to step in and calm the screaming newbies down. He instantly shoots her down, calling them pure dead weight and predicting they will be wiped out soon. In this brutal system, he knows the master will just melt them down for upgrade materials, since they provide 0 value. Hearing this disrespect, a rookie named Toby snaps storming over and fiercely yanking Han by the collar. Big mistake. Han delivers a devastating hook to Toby's jaw, instantly dropping him to the floor. Standing over the bleeding rookie, Han spits straight facts. While the veterans were out there, spilling blood, these cowards just hid. Their reckoning is totally inevitable. Fast forward 24 hours, and the duo is back on the grind. Han ruthlessly drills his combat combos, successfully pushing his sword and shield mastery up to level 2. Meanwhile, the 3 deadbeats ditch practice, completely desperately pacing the lobby, trying to find a glitch in the matrix to escape. The archer uses Han as live target practice. He smoothly deflects her shots until a rogue arrow violently pierces his calf, making her gasp in horror. He brushes it off like a mosquito bite, reminding her about the game's insane health regeneration. Right before their eyes, the torn flesh rapidly knits itself back together. Taking all that damage actually pays off. The system rewards him with a brand new pain tolerance passive. The brutal sparring matches continue non-stop, and pushing his limits triggers a rare class evolution. His attack and defense traits fuse into a level 3 combat stance. Then day 3 hits, and the master connects to the server. The fairy instantly manifests, shrieking at the squad to fall back into the safe zone. before the mob wave absolutely shreds them. The archer actually exhales a sigh of relief, completely burnt out from their hardcore boot camp. Of course, the rookie trio instantly starts throwing another massive fit, whining about missing home and being sick of their garbage potato rations. That is the final straw for the tiny guide. The fairy goes absolutely feral. She launches a blinding fast combo, knocking two of the grown men clean across the room like ragdolls. Screaming about reporting their toxic behavior to the master, she ruthlessly pummels the newbies, while they sob and beg for mercy. The screen flashes. The master forcibly drops the entire party onto floor 3, spawning a horde of buffed-up goblins. Han and the archer instantly lock in, while the three cowards cower in the spawn zone completely frozen. But thanks to his hellish grinding, Han glides through the monster wave, decapitating greenskins like butter. The archer matches his energy, landing flawless headshots to snatch the MVP crown for the round. Wiping the sweat from her brow, she glares at the trembling rookies, pointing out their absolute zero contribution. Han just smirks, totally unfazed. Why would he want to split that sweet EXP with a bunch of freeloaders anyway? System rules are brutal. No damage dealt means zero progression. Taking a hint from the fairy, the player above pulls a massive troll move, forcing the entire squad back to floor 1, hoping to force the scrubs to actually swing their weapons. A blue flash drops them into the starter dungeon, where a pack of basic mobs immediately charges. But before the rookies can even flinch, the archer rains down a rapid-fire barrage, wiping the map and stealing MVP yet again. Frustrated, the master hits the reset button instantly. Han stretches his neck, realizing the grim truth. Because they absolutely speedran that wave, the god in the sky is not going to let them rest. He steamrolls the next reset, grabbing the MVP title for himself. But the back-to-back dungeon crawling is seriously taking a toll, draining their stamina bars to 0. Panting heavily, she admits she is hitting a wall, dreading just how many more loops this sadistic player is going to force them through. After grinding for hours on end, the system finally cuts them some slack, warping the battered squad back to the safe zone. The vibe is instantly ruined by the presence of the 3 deadweight rookies. But luckily, for our dynamic duo, the master triggers the dreaded synthesis chamber. For the useless rookies, it is an absolute death sentence. Just a few rotations prior, Han was staring down that exact same meat grinder, barely scraping by with a second chance. He turns to the archer, confirming the chilling reality the god beyond the screen is always watching. The fairy has been keeping tabs on who is actually putting in work and who is just dead weight swooping in to order our archer girl and an older dude named Elson straight into the fusion chamber. It suddenly clicks for the old head that he is literal cannon fodder, and he absolutely loses his mind screaming at our boy about being kidnapped against their will. He keeps throwing a massive tantrum about how messed up this all is, but nobody cares, and he gets shoved into the pod anyway before the heavy metal doors slam shut. Without hesitating, the overarching master greenlights the fusion process, while you can hear the guy completely breaking down inside, pleading for his life. But it is game over for him, as his physical form literally dissolves into blinding pixels. The fusion wraps up, and thanks to that brutal sacrifice, the archer girl gets a major glow-up, unlocking a sick new passive called Eagle Eye. She steps out of the machine, looking totally scrambled frantically, asking where the boomer went, so Han deadpans it for her, explaining that this room is literally a meat grinder for deadbeats. Then he casually drops that he is up next on the chopping block, scanning the remaining 2 dudes like they are items on a menu, wondering who is getting fed to him. The 2 survivors instantly start sweating bullets, absolute terror, painting their faces before the fairy breaks the tension and locks in Han and the heavily bearded dude Toby for round 2. Toby is shaking like a leaf, completely clueless about the nightmare he just walked into. They both get tossed into the fusion core, and Toby starts having a full-blown meltdown, desperately asking if this glowing tube is his ticket back to the real world. Our boy just goes along with the pure copium, letting the guy clock out without stressing out, and in a flash, the system finalizes the merge. Toby gets completely absorbed into Han's stats, handing our protagonist a sweet level up and a brand new perk called Composure. And as he strides past the sole surviving non-player character, Han just smirks and tells him to go buy a lottery ticket while the archer girl finally connects the dots that dragging the team down means getting permanently deleted. Panic starts creeping into her eyes as she pictures herself ending up on the exact same chopping block the second she falls behind. Han does not sugarcoat it, warning her that the mobs are only going to hit harder, meaning they have to grind harder, and if she stops improving, she is guaranteed to be monster chow. He brings up her dad's old advice about always backing the winning horse, which hits deep, making her instantly realize sticking by Han's side is her only survival strategy. Fast forward to the next morning at the training grounds, she walks right up, gives a deep, respectful bow, and straight up pledges her loyalty to his squad. Han senses some hidden potential locked away inside her, telling her that as long as she does the dirty work without hesitation, she gets to keep breathing. Right in the middle of their chat, the blonde dude shuffles over, dropping his pride and apologizing for acting like a total wimp earlier. He feels terrible for leaving them to tank the mob waves solo and practically pleads for some combat lessons, but our protagonist hits him with a reality check, asking why he should even bother trusting him. The guy immediately drops to his knees, right there in the dirt, a zero-ego move that actually earns Han's respect, so he tosses the dude a basic spear. Han straight up admits he is no polearm master, but notes that it is the most foolproof weapon for a complete beginner to pick up, and right after that, he breaks down the battlefield meta, categorizing blades and knives for in-your-face brawling, polearms for zoning, and arrows for sniping from the backline. He points out that by handing out this spear, their squad just hit the perfect synergy, locking down short, mid, and long-range damage all at once. Lifting his own blade, Han barks at the newbie to step up and throw hands, making the blonde dude immediately start shaking. He stammers about whether a literal duel is actually necessary, and Han answers by lunging right at his throat, explaining that since nobody hand-held him through his training, he cannot spoon-feed him spear tutorials, forcing the new guy to learn through pure trial and error, just like he did with the sword. Backed into a corner, the dude finally bites back and thrusts his weapon forward. Except he literally squeezes his eyes shut like a coward, so Han easily sidesteps and plants a brutal kick right into his gut, roasting him for fighting blind. The impact absolutely folds him, leaving him hacking and throwing up all over the floor, while our hero states with ice in his veins that if he was an actual mob, his head would already be rolling on the ground, prompting the archer girl to play peacekeeper and suggest that Han is going way too hard for day one of boot camp. But Han is not running a charity and refuses to babysit anyone switching tactics to interrogate the guy about his family, leading the blonde to choke out that he has a little sister. Knowing she is definitely out there waiting for him to come home, our boy presses cold steel right against Aaron's throat, forcing him to picture the grim reality, where he never makes it back, asking exactly who is going to protect his sibling if he lets some random dungeon crawler rip him to shreds. That aggressive reality check hits the target perfectly, sparking a massive fire inside the guy's chest, and noticing that killer instinct finally waking up in his gaze. Our boy flashes a dangerous smirk, admitting this vibe is way better. Cutting back to the main hub, a holographic system prompt pops up, announcing the overarching master just unlocked the armory and dropped a blacksmith into their base, with gear immediately materializing on the racks, meaning this squad can finally forge their own top-tier loot. Catching this huge update, our boy snaps his fingers to summon the fairy who materializes with major attitude, throwing a fit about him, treating her like a glorified servant. Han claps back instantly, sending her into a blind rage where she starts throwing tiny, completely useless punches at him. But unbothered, he just stares her down and asks if she is the mastermind feeding tips to the boss, since that implies she has full access to the web, and she flexes a bit, bragging that surfing the net is her absolute favorite downtime activity. He hits her with the facts, calling out that she is literally just copying and pasting builds from the public meta forums, making the fairy's jaw drop as she demands to know how he figured out her secret strategy. He brushes it off as basic gaming knowledge, name-dropping a famous thread posted by the #1 ranked player Loki, but she immediately bursts out laughing, roasting Han for being a bottom-tier scrub. She hypes Loki up as the ultimate gaming warlord and an absolute legend of the server, making it painfully obvious she is unapologetically fangirling over the guy. Our boy raises an eyebrow asking what makes this Loki dude so special, and she instantly gets defensive, claiming he is the only player who can pull off literal miracles. Han just shakes his head and tells her he actually pities her, causing the fairy to instantly freeze, her rant glaring daggers as she demands him to repeat that sheer disrespect. Bro locks eyes with her and casually drops the hardest nuke, declaring that he is Loki, her so-called gaming god, and the fairy completely short-circuits as the reality of his words crashes down. Han does not even flinch. He just casually drops his account number, and honestly, the fairy instantly freezes, entirely speechless. See, to block hackers, those digits are locked down tight, and only the true owner possesses them. Our guy even volunteers to pull up his Google login if she is still throwing shade, frantically verifying the data she keeps repeating, that this has to be some kind of sick prank. But then the reality hits her. Her whole vibe flips instantly as she starts squealing like a hardcore fangirl, literally begging our boy for a signature. Securing Loki's autograph would instantly crown her the supreme leader of his official fan group. Han scribbles his name down, totally confused about why this cult even exists. She hypes up this exclusive community worshipping his every move. He smirks, genuinely amused, confessing he had absolutely zero clue he possessed his own fandom. Panic suddenly washes over her tiny face. It just dawned on her that she had been completely trashing an absolute legend this entire time without realizing who he was. Han brushes off the apology, reminding the trembling fairy that right now, he is literally just rocking a 1-star rank. Something clicks in her brain, prompting her to cut him off and ask about the fate of Niflheimr, now that he is stuck here. Han just shrugs, totally clueless. For context, Niflheimr serves as the ultimate home base on his main profile, housing all his champions. We are talking about 13 massive floors, packed with roughly 2,000 residents. Plus, practically every structure inside that zone is insanely upgraded, sitting somewhere between level 18 and 22. The panicked fairy questions the fate of the 20,000 souls left waiting for his orders. Han shoots back that if she cares so much, she could just teleport him home. Dropping her head, she confesses, that is impossible, though our boy already figured out why. Being a basic mid-tier moderator means she lacks that kind of clearance. Realizing it is a dead end, Han drops the subject. Shifting gears, he interrogates her about the current lobby owner. He needs the truth on whether this master is an actual person and if these summoned fighters are just code or living humans. She drops a massive bombshell, confirming both. A living person runs the space, and every single warrior dragged in here breathes real air. It hits Han like a truck. The kid controlling them definitely has zero clue treating actual living beings like disposable, pixelated sprites. Pushing for an exit strategy, he asks if conquering floor 100 unlocks a ticket back to Earth, but the fairy draws a blank. He then demands the identity of his summoner. Looking guilty, she apologizes and refuses to spill the beans, but Han casually tells her to chill out. His mind is already set on scaling this death trap, meaning he will uncover the truth eventually. Pivoting, he tests her limits, asking what kind of power she wields, without the boss giving the green light. Her administrative permissions are basically garbage, limiting her to basic support duties like booting up the system, managing inventory, and keeping the lights on. Digging deeper, our protagonist asks if every single player base shares this exact same layout. Nodding, she verifies the uniform design. Han does the math in his head and realizes if every gamer claims a lobby, there could easily be over 1 million parallel dimensions packed with kidnapped champions. For years, the gaming community treated these units as mindless artificial intelligence, completely blind to the fact that they were commanding living people. The dark reality sinks in. Back in his prime gaming days, Han was literally moving flesh and blood. One tiny slip-up with his mouse could have ended a life. Snapping back to the present, he stares down the fairy and offers a deal. He will carry her to the top, but she needs to follow his orders flawlessly. Cutting over to the training grounds, the archer is putting in serious work. Watching her form, Han immediately spots raw, unfiltered potential. Her progression speed is absolutely insane. Honestly, nobody in their right mind would ever peg her as a measly 1-star rookie. Despite touching a blade for the very first time today, she wields it like a total pro. Meanwhile, the blonde dude is practically dying on his feet. Watching the guy wheeze, Han doubts he will last another week. The archer defends her training methods, claiming she went easy on him, yet he's still completely wiped out. Han tells her to ignore the weak link and focus purely on matching his rhythm. Out of nowhere, the fairy pops into the frame, viciously roasting the archer for invading Han's personal space. The tiny admin loudly claims the title of Han's ultimate right-hand woman. Not backing down, the archer instantly claps back, fighting for the top spot. The beef escalates from 0 to 100 in seconds. Before the fairy can spit out another insult, Han brutally shuts down the screaming match. The duo keeps bickering the whole way to the vault. Ignoring the drama, he orders the fairy to unlock the heavy gates. Stepping inside, his eyes scan a massive pile of C-rank loot. Next up, he demands access to the blacksmith zone, making the archer super curious about his master plan. With a straight face, he announces he is burning through the entire stash. That earlier chat with the tiny admin sparked a genius idea in his head. He exists as a glitch, being half warrior and half admin. Thanks to this dual status, the system partially obeys his commands, unlocking restricted zones meant only for the account owner. Striding into the sweltering forge, Han plants himself in front of the crafting station and carefully analyzes the setup. Because the machinery is running on autopilot, red error screens spam the interface. The probability of actually forging something decent is absolute trash. Without hesitation, he overrides the controls to manual and cranks up the setting. In this twisted universe, insane risks equal god-tier payouts. Our absolute madman locks in the hardest tier possible, extreme hell. The fairy nearly has a heart attack, knowing that bombing this mode triggers brutal system punishments. Shaking with anxiety, she begs him to reconsider, but Han just smirks and tells her to sit back and watch a master at work. Manual forging involves beating these crazy intense minigames. Honestly, most players dodge them entirely because the skill ceiling is ridiculously high. For this specific challenge, he needs to perfectly construct a blade out of tiny puzzle blocks, and the ticking clock only grants him a miserable 3 minutes. The fairy just stares at the scattered scraps, totally clueless about how this junk is ever going to turn into a blade. But our boy is fully locked in. His hands blur, snatching up those microscopic blocks and snapping them together with absolute flawless precision. Her jaw practically hits the floor as she whispers that he's moving like an absolute literal god. In the blink of an eye, a wicked sword materializes. Boom, a massive success prompt flashes on the screen. Han just forged a C- rank weapon. The little pixie loses her mind with hype, considering he literally built this masterpiece out of garbage tier loot. But hold up, my guy is just getting started. He goes on an absolute crafting spree, forging a blade, a polearm, and a buckler, popping insane success rates on every single drop. Despite using straight-up trash resources, the fairy begs him to keep cooking, but he shuts it down. He points out that flooding their inventory with fresh gear would definitely make the big boss super suspicious. Cut to the 4th floor. The archer girl is letting arrows fly like a machine gun, instantly deleting a goblin with a clean headshot. She hypes up her insane new bow, flexing that someone might actually try to snatch it. Our boy totally waves off her panic, telling her just to lock it down with the exclusive weapon perk. But this wave is built differently. Airborne freaks join the chat. The hero orders her to snipe the sky threats while he sweeps up the goblin trash on the ground. He orders Aaron to play bodyguard for her, and the dude swears he'll give it his all. Suddenly, the aerial freaks dive bomb them. The blonde kid totally chokes, flailing his spear around like a madman, while screaming his lungs out. His raw panic straight up tanks his stats by a brutal 30%. He's caught in a total freakout loop until the archer sprints over and hits him with a massive slap, instantly rebooting his brain. She brutally reminds him that one single slip-up means a game over for all 3 of them. That cold truth makes him lock back in, and his breathing finally levels out. Rolling as a flawless trio, they completely wipe the stage. Fast forward a bit. The spear dude is absolutely gassed and looking wrecked. He admits he was basically dead weight and is terrified of getting permanently fused with another player if he keeps bottom fragging. But out of nowhere, a prompt drops saying he just got whitelisted on the favorites page. Han hits him with the ultimate relief he is safe from the chopping block for a long time. The dude practically cries tears of joy, screaming at the top of his lungs in pure hype. The archer girl smirks and drops a comment about how the hero's #1 minion was a massive W, and now even his #2 is pulling his weight. He throws her a weird look, asking what on earth she's talking about. She's basically claiming the title of his loyal right hand. He just brushes it off, sheathing his gear as he walks away, mentally noting that his actual original Day 1 ally is nowhere near this place. She's chilling in Niflheimr, and she goes by Cirrus. She, along with 4 other absolute legends, used to run under his banner back when he was grinding the game. He catches himself, hoping that down the line, their paths will cross again. The second he logged off for good, she likely became the undisputed boss of that whole lobby. Yrnith is holding it down there too, perfectly capable of running the show. Those two are massive brainiacs who could easily carry the entire base. Right as he finishes that thought, the camera cuts straight to Niflheimr. At the absolute peak of the penthouse, we catch the 2 boss girls side by side. Yrnith slides over and questions Cirrus on whether she is actually dipping out. She shoots back that the clock is literally ticking. The other girl lets out a heavy sigh and promises she'll handle all the deep dive intel. Cirrus nods, demanding she also track down the master's exact coordinates, with 0 delay. With that final order, she vanishes, leaving her partner as the absolute ruler of the entire hub. Flashback to our boy's base, it just hit level 2. The architecture starts radically transforming and blowing up in size, building by building. The archer instantly spots the massive glow-up and mentions how ridiculously clean the place looks now. The blonde dude is totally mind-blown, asking if their boss is straight up using magic to hack the base so fast. Our boy shatters the illusion, no wizardry here. The big guy simply threw a fat stack of real cash at the base. Internally, he knows the Overseer is 100% monitoring their shock right now, feeling incredibly smug that his little NPC crew is loving the new drip. But the admin is still totally clueless that every single one of them is a living, breathing human. Their personal spaces and the whole hub keep getting crazier upgrades the more stages they smash. Right on cue, the little pixie floats in. He breaks it down for her. Their boss clearly works a heavy 9-to-5 corporate grind, since his online status follows an exact robotic schedule. She flexes a massive mountain of shiny gems and gold, noting they caught a huge break that the admin isn't some broke college kid. He knows exactly how this brutal pay-to-win system works. You don't get premium currency from free handouts. You either swipe your credit card, or you get nothing. Out of nowhere, a blazing system alert drops. A 10-pull summon is triggering, meaning 10 brand new victims are dropping in at any second. Every single head snaps toward the main portal. He announces the arrival of fresh meat and breaks down the gacha mechanics. There are 2 kinds of pulls. Gold drops hand out generic 1-star fodder, while gem drops summon high-tier absolute beasts. A totally dazed squad stumbles out of the portal, nervously asking what kind of fever dream they just woke up in. Our boy steps right up to the front line, silently scanning the fresh crowd. Then, he whips out his blade and levels the tip right at some random dude's face. The guy stammers, sweating bullets in pure terror. Our boy barks a command for absolute dead silence. He skips the friendly tutorial completely and drops one harsh truth on them. They are completely on their own in this hell, and he'll only drop the lore for the ones who actually manage to not die. Exactly at that moment, the pixie swoops back into the scene. She belts out across the room, demanding to know if any of these newbies have actual skills, like crafting, forging, tanning, or whipping up a decent meal. Our archer leans in whispering, what exactly is her deal? Our boy just shrugs it off, explaining she is just running the class selection. Basically, if you've got a practical talent, you're getting VIP treatment. The base camp is stacked with facilities, but they are totally useless without the right crew running them. That little pixie keeps filtering the crowd until squad number 2 drops a 4-man team. You can spot a few rookies clutching some basic iron blades. Our guy lays out the brutal truth. If you ain't got a crafting skill, the master is throwing you straight into the meat grinder just to see if you survive. Without skipping a beat, the fairy shoves Party 2 right into Stage 1. The massive gates groan open, they step foot inside, and boom, one dude gets wiped off the map immediately. Our protagonist just watches the bloodbath, casually dropping a comment on that insane speedrun to the grave. The archer is totally rattled, arguing they should have dropped a tutorial first. But our boy, he ain't having it. He spits straight facts. If you get clapped in the literal tutorial stage, you're dead weight anyway. Right on cue, another newbie named Teddy bites the dust. Watching this absolute massacre unfold, the fairy cold-heartedly starts drafting the next squad. The whole room is shaking in their boots, totally traumatized by watching the last crew get packed up. Suddenly, Blondie steps up to the pixie, demanding a spot on the front line. She instantly tries to shut him down, telling him to stay in his lane. But our main guy interrupts, telling her to let him off the leash because the kid desperately needs the battle XP. Sighing, she pings the master with a pop-up request, letting him know Aaron is trying to join the raid. Our hero pulls the kid aside, dropping some heavy advice. Watch the team's back, but do not get yourself flatlined in the process. Aaron nods, locking in completely. Off to the side, our archer throws her arms up for a stretch, complaining that she is literally starving for some actual food, because she is so over living on a sad potato diet. Our boy just points a finger straight up at the sky. Watch your mouth, he warns. The big boss is always watching. She totally panics, freezing up until he cracks a smirk and calms her down. He explains the master has eyes on them, but no audio. Anything they say just gets processed as a heavily filtered text prompt. Before long, the rookie squad actually clutches up, clearing Stage 1 with 0 casualties. Our MC checks in with Blondie, asking for his kill count. The kid admits he only bagged 1 single goblin. Honestly, our boy is hyped about it, proud the kid actually stuck to his assigned role, so he signals the crew to fall back. But when they drag themselves into the mess hall, their jaws drop. The whole place just got a massive tier upgrade. The archer's eyes are practically sparkling, totally convinced a steak dinner is finally on the menu. Our guy just observes from the shadows, thinking they are celebrating way too early. And right on cue, the so-called chef drops down plates of absolute mystery sludge. Everyone just stares at it, completely grossed out. The cook starts sweating, making up some lame excuse about lacking materials. But our MC ain't buying it. He flashes open the system menu, scanning the guy's stats. The screen pops up, name is Dolph, and his cooking skill is absolute 0. Dolph instantly goes pale, knowing he is totally busted. Without wasting a second, our hero marches straight over to a quiet girl named Chloe, declaring her the new head chef of this operation. The pixie pings the master for the green light, and the approval instantly rolls in. Chloe looks like a deer in headlights, but shakily nods her head. As for the fake chef, he drops to his knees, pleading for mercy, but our guy delivers a chilling threat. Lie to him again, and it's game over. Chloe hits the kitchen and works pure magic. Even though she only has potatoes to work with, she serves up an absolute feast that looks gourmet and actually slaps. Mid-bite, our protagonist decides it is time for a reality check, breaking down the brutal mechanics of this twisted world. Once the heavy lore dump wraps up, the archer steps up to kill the awkward silence. She hits them with some hardcore empathy, admitting she was a total noob at combat before getting dragged into this mess. She reminds the room that not every player is meant to be a DPS. A surviving party desperately needs support and crafting classes just to function. Our guy backs her up, pointing out that background roles actually have a way higher survival rate. But he also drops a grim warning: get comfortable and you will get swapped out. The second someone with higher stats rolls in. Fast forward to morning, and the portal spits out a fresh batch of summons. This time around, it's literally just a handful of teenage boys. 0 time wasted. Our hero immediately drags the kids into a brutal boot camp, while the archer and Blondie split off to grind mastery on their signature gear. By the end of the session, the kids are gasping for air, absolutely destroyed. But our MC respects the hustle. He'd take these battered kids over the cowards hiding in the lobby any day. A few days blur by, and the player count keeps stacking up. Our archer starts getting antsy, questioning why they are hard stuck on the lower levels, instead of pushing stage 5. Our guy keeps his answer chillingly vague. The master is still theory crafting, he says. He's waiting for the perfect roster. The truth, stage 5 is a massive difficulty spike, basically a terrifying raid boss zone, but he keeps his mouth shut about the danger. Because honestly, even he is low-key terrified. His stats ain't high enough to make it out alive. So rather than rushing toward a guaranteed wipeout, they pull back to floor 4 to grind. During the mob fights, our hero hangs in the backline, acting as the shot caller, screaming at the rookies to hold the line at all costs. Solo. These kids would get absolutely shredded, but chained together in a tight formation, they actually dish out some decent damage. That is his whole endgame right there. Power level the newbies, so they can be meat shields or backup in the upcoming boss rush. No one knows what the next objective is going to look like, but he knows damn well you cannot solo everything in this game. When the stage cleared, notification finally pops. The young squad goes wild, hyping each other up, watching them pop off. Our archer flashes a soft smile, admitting they actually cooked out there. And for the very first time, our stoic boy nods in agreement. But as the days drag on, the god in the sky starts going away from keyboard for longer and longer stretches. The silver lining though, the RNG finally blesses them with a legit blacksmith and a tanner in the newest drop. These crafters instantly team up, hammering out massive batches of E-tier blades. They hand out these starter weapons to the fresh meat, while keeping the shiny C-tier gear strictly locked down for the main squad. But the craziest part of all this, 3 useless players just got straight up fed into the synthesis machine, and yeah, that lying chef was one of them. Fast forward a few sunrises, and the moment of truth finally drops. It is officially time to breach the 5th floor. Our main guy double-checks with their fairy guide who gives the green light. Before stepping in, he drops a quick pep talk on the squad, warning them to keep their heads on a swivel. In a flash of light, the crew spawns straight into a post-apocalyptic wasteland of a city. Eerily enough, the streets are totally dead. No monsters, no survivors. This immediate ghost town vibe tips our boy off. They are definitely not here for a basic hunt and clear mission. Out of nowhere, one of the dudes spots a decayed skeleton and absolutely loses his mind screaming. The panic is contagious, especially with all the dark rumors surrounding this specific tier. Needing a bird's eye view, he orders the archer girl to scale a nearby watchtower and scope out the perimeter. The second she hits the top, her blood runs completely cold. The crew spots the sheer terror plastered across her face and starts hollering, demanding a sitrep. Choking on her own words, she stammers out a nightmare reality. A massive swarming horde of goblins is stampeding straight for their location. Right on cue, a glowing system prompt pops up. The objective, survive, a tidal wave of exactly 1,086 bloodthirsty goblins. Realizing the clock is ticking, our MC knows standing around means instant death. He barks at her to scramble down immediately. Trying to keep the squad from mentally breaking, he reminds them they do not actually need to wipe out the entire army. They literally just need to outlast the timer. Desperate for cover, the squad bolts toward the close building, but every single door is dead-bolted shut, forcing them to pivot and sprint into a cramped alleyway instead. The lethal countdown officially locks in at 30 minutes. They frantically scan the area for a defensible choke point, but their window to prepare is rapidly slamming shut. They finally anchor down in a super tight corridor, eliminating the risk of getting swarmed in a 360-degree circle. The mob only has 3 routes to push through. Our MC claims the left flank as his domain. He puts Aaron on crowd control for the right side, while Geed and Hansen are tasked with locking down the rear entrance. To prevent anyone from gassing out, they set up a strict rotation system. The archer girl acts as the ultimate flex player, ready to lay down covering fire wherever needed. Taking charge, our boy orders everyone to start throwing together a makeshift barricade. Glancing up at the holographic clock, his stomach drops. The countdown is moving in actual real time. They have to literally fight for their lives for half an hour straight. Seconds later, the ugly mug of their first target peeks around the corner. The timer kicks off instantly as the green menace violently lunges forward. Their defense wall is barely half built, but that goes straight out the window as dozens more monsters pour into the alley. Thinking on his feet, the MC screams at the squad to literally stack the dead goblin bodies as their new barricade. Meanwhile, Han locks into a ruthless rhythm of parry and strike, casually holding the line like a pro. The blonde dude, on the other hand, is completely drowning in the chaos, desperately begging to know if they really only have to survive for 10 minutes. With a brutal 26 minutes still glaring on the HUD, our protagonist serves up a solid dose of fake copium, assuring the guy he would never lie about something like that. Regardless of the white lies, our boy absolutely refuses to catch a game over screen in this trashy alley. The green tidal wave pushes closer, prompting him to holler for a tactical swap between Geed and Hansen. Hansen tries to play tough and stay in the pocket, but our MC violently shuts him down, forcing the rotation. He can clearly see the dude is fading fast, held back by trash stats, a tiny stamina bar, and absolutely zero form. He is burning way too much gas just to drop a single mob. In sharp contrast, Han is out here carving through the enemies with surgical, cold-blooded accuracy. His internal monologue is locked onto one simple cheat code: one swing, one body, 0 wasted movements, infinite efficiency. Yet the horde just keeps mindlessly throwing themselves onto their blades, basically acting like kamikaze fodder. Sensing the pressure, our boy barks out orders for another lane swap. Geed scrambles to equip his sword and board, stepping up, while a totally gassed Hansen retreats to the safest spot in their defensive pocket. He then flags down the archer, ordering her to lay down covering fire for the exhausted guy and to recycle her ammo. Her eyes immediately light up. She has been absolutely itching to jump into the fray. He assigns her the cleanup duty: snipe any rogue monster that manages to slip past the front line. Up front, the spear wielder is still aggressively mowing down the green freaks, but his sanity is visibly cracking as he whines, demanding to know if their 10-minute mark is finally over. Drenched in cold sweat and running on fumes, the MC drops the heavy truth bomb. They have only survived for 5 brutal minutes. The sniper girl keeps letting arrows fly, screaming at the spearman to duck and weave. Without warning, a rusty goblin blade violently slashes right through his bicep, sending a spray of crimson into the air. A red danger prompt flashes, signaling a major bleed debuff and rapid health drain. Our boy immediately orders the backup dude to step into the gap and ignore the blood pouring out for now. Geed starts sobbing from the sheer agony, completely shook and on the verge of breaking, but the MC viciously snaps him back to reality, demanding to know if he wants to catch a squad wipe today. Reality hits the kid like a truck, and he chokes out a frantic apology. The MC commands the archer to patch the guy up, and she instantly slaps a tight bandage over the massive gash. Gritting his teeth, the injured boy drags himself back up. Seeing his squad at their absolute limit, our MC drops his limiters. He explodes into the mob like a hurricane of violence, vaporizing the grunts the second they spawn, but the monster system seemingly amps up its aggression in response. Mid-carnage, the frontline defender absolutely loses his cool, because his main weapon literally shatters from 0 durability. The MC immediately checks on the bleeding kid for another rotation, and despite the agonizing pain, he nods yes. He aggressively yanks Hansen into the backline to fix his broken gear. Honestly, our boy saw this exact disaster coming from a mile away. Even if that blade was a slight upgrade from a trash tier F rank, its stats were still absolute garbage. Adapting instantly, the MC snatches a dropped shield off the concrete and starts straight up bashing goblin skulls in with it, screaming at his team to keep dropping bodies even if they have to use their bare hands. The squad rotates like a well-oiled desperate machine, clenching his jaw to push past the burning fatigue. He roars out the best news yet. Only 3 agonizing minutes left on the clock. But 30 minutes might as well be a lifetime. Spearbro and the archer girl are already swapping aggro after just 10 seconds. At the exact same time, he barks at the injured kid to tag back in and back up their front line. He screams at the archer to unleash every single arrow she has left. It is basic math. If that flank collapses, it is game over for everyone. She absolutely shreds through a wave of goblins. But before the rotation clicks, disaster strikes a monster, buries its blade straight into the wounded guy's gut. He drops to his knees, choking on his own blood before hitting the dirt completely motionless. A blinding red alert pops up, critical condition 0 HP inbound. The archer girl goes completely stiff, her eyes blown wide in pure panic. The system warning keeps pulsing like a Grim Reaper's countdown. She hesitates, hands hovering, tempted to rip the blade out, but she knows pulling it means instant death. While she is paralyzed, his buddy is getting absolutely swarmed by the green menace, begging to swap for just 30 seconds. Even our main guy is pushed to the absolute limit, burning through every ounce of stamina just to hold the line. Seeing their defense crumbling, he orders Hansen to step up and completely block out his dying friend for right now. Then the harshest reality check drops. A system ping confirms it. Geed is gone. No time to mourn. He roars at the archer to leave the corpse and focus her fire on the incoming horde. Snapping out of it, she joins the fray, triggering a level 3 sword mastery upgrade. Mid-swing, she screams out, begging to know how much time is left on the clock. And he snaps back, telling her to stop clock watching and start stacking bodies. Our boy is racking up skill levels across the board too, but he could not care less. Buffs do not mean a thing if they end up as goblin food. Things go from bad to worse when the other guy takes a massive hit. Within seconds, a pack of goblins swallows him up, hacking away. Our hero realizes the front line is officially busted, so he calls for a full tactical retreat. They ditch the choke point and book it, desperately trying to shave off those final, crucial seconds. Spotting a random house in the chaos, he commands the girl to scale the wall. She freezes up again, totally convinced he is sacrificing himself so she can solo survive. But he promises he is right on her heels. With their backs exposed in the open air, pinpoint strikes are useless. He switches up his entire combat style, trading quick stabs for massive sweeping arcs to crowd control the mob. She scrambles onto the roof and he vaults up right after. But just as the spear dude tries to hoist himself up, a goblin sinks a blade deep into his calf. Zero hesitation, our boy drops back down, obliterating the attacker. Taking one look at the mangled leg, he makes the ultimate savage call: amputation. With a brutal swing, he takes the guy's leg clean off. Crimson sprays the wall while the guy wails in absolute agony, but our hero has ice in his veins. Survival is the only mission. Up top, the girl uses the discarded spear to poke the climbers away, but panic overrides her grip. She fumbles the weapon and lets out a blood-curdling shriek, completely losing her mind over their impending doom. He shouts at her to just start stomping faces, screaming that they only need to hold out for 30 more agonizing seconds. But that split-second distraction costs him dearly. A rogue goblin clears the ledge. He winds up for a slash but gets totally blindsided when a second monster lunges in, burying a shank deep into his gut. Blood instantly pools around the wound. He tries to swing back through the pain, but the goblin viciously slices him again. Meanwhile, the archer takes a hit, her health bar actively melting away. Time literally seems to slow down as our guy's mind starts spiraling. Is this the end? Is he actually going to wipe on the 5th floor? The thought alone makes his blood boil with pure, unfiltered rage. It is completely rigged. He never dealt with this kind of insane nonsense back on Earth. That toxic cocktail of absolute fury and rock-bottom despair suddenly flips a dark switch deep inside his soul. His eyes ignite with a glowing red glare, exploding with a terrifying aura. He launches forward like a freight train, roaring that this raid is far from over, and nobody is dying today. He turns into an absolute blender, massacring goblins at a blinding pace. His physical form completely mutates into pure primal energy, his hair flaring out like a literal demon. Right now, these monsters are just stepping stones. Boom, our boy just unlocked the berserker trait. Stripped of all fear, he unleashes absolute hell on the battlefield. Every nerve is screaming in agony, but the adrenaline lets him shatter his own limits, carving through the grotesque horde. Without dropping a single frame of momentum, he hacks with such violent force that his blade physically shatters into pieces, but he does not even flinch. He just grips the jagged hilt and dives right back into the bloodbath. And then, the clock hits 0. The entire mob freezes like statues. A mutated elite was mere inches from burying a dagger into his face, but the system pause caught it right in midair, snatching him from the jaws of death. The archer girl is just standing there, completely paralyzed by shock amidst a sea of frozen enemies. And wildly enough, the one-legged spear bro, who was literally knocking on death's door, manages to clutch survival thanks to the buzzer. Against all odds, the trio actually cleared the stage. A massive loot drop hits the screen, showering them with gold, iron ore, premium leather, and top-tier crafting materials. In a flash of light, they are teleported back to the safe zone. Looking at his shaking hands, you can tell for the very first time our stone-cold MC was genuinely terrified. The adrenaline finally crashes, letting the squad catch their breath. A crazy, relieved laugh escapes the archer girl as it hits her that they did not wipe, and she reaches out for an assist. He pulls her to her feet, while she quietly asks if the nightmare is actually over. Our MC nods, sealing the deal. Now, chilling back in the waiting room, the archer chick throws out a question. She wants to know if every upcoming floor is going to be this absolute nightmare. Our guy shuts that down. This round was an anomaly, a pure survival gauntlet, designed specifically to test squad synergy. Those two randoms in their group simply lacked the firepower, which is the sole factor. That dragged them all straight to death's door. The archer drops her gaze, muttering that she gets it. Yet you can clearly read the guilt written all over her face for letting them bite the dust. Once they materialize back at base, the dead guy's buddy rushes over absolutely hyped, asking where his crew is. Without sugarcoating a single word, our MC drops the bomb they got wiped. The dude's jaw drops in pure denial, but hey, welcome to the brutal reality of the tower. 0 seconds later, the player upstairs queues up the next squad. Cutting to our boy, he completely faceplants onto his mattress, rewinding the chaos in his head. Shedding tears over fallen NPCs, not his style. When you're constantly dodging grim reapers on the front lines, watching people drop just becomes Tuesday. A nagging thought creeps in. Did he actually unlock the berserker trait? He analyzes the weird clash between his composure buff and this new frenzy. They literally cancel each other out. One locks in absolute focus, while the other trades sanity for raw explosive damage. He starts theorizing if this glitchy skill tree mashup triggered because he is somehow playing both the summoner and the summoned unit simultaneously. Ultimately, he shoves those thoughts aside. Tomorrow's grind is going to be insane, so tonight is strictly for catching Z's. Fast forward to daybreak, he hits the training arena, only to spot the archer chick already sweating it out with some intense dagger drills. He calls out her usual lazy habits, wondering why she is up at dawn. Her answer is dead serious. She refuses to be the next casualty. Scanning her stats, our MC spots a fresh ability unlocked from yesterday's bloodbath. Meanwhile, their resident spearman scored absolutely nothing, even though the dude grinds just as hard. Looking at his own specs, his upgrade requirement sits firmly at 5, pretty standard scaling for a 3-star unit. Seeing as he is currently pushing the absolute level cap for a 1-star rank, his next massive milestone is evolving into a 2-star powerhouse. Mid-handstand push-up, the archer strolls over and casually pokes his abs instantly, making the vibe incredibly awkward. He instantly swats her away and snatches his shirt back on. She whines, claiming his core muscles don't even feel fatigued. He snaps back that he is totally drained. Honestly, this chick is a total wildcard. They literally crawled out of hell 24 hours ago, and she is bouncing around like it was just a walk in the park. She brings up how Aaron is probably a no-show, prompting our guy to tell her to drop the subject. He figures the spearman is locked in his room, totally paralyzed by the trauma of watching his best bros get slaughtered. Han scans the pathetic crowd at the training grounds, feeling a sting of disappointment over losing 2 grinders who actually put in the work. Internally, he calculates that Geet and Hansen would have morphed into solid meat shields if they just had a few more weeks to level up. For a split second, he legitimately wishes those 2 had made it out alive instead of the useless scrubs standing around him. Catching his dark mood, the archer chimes in, suggesting they just tunnel vision on their own stat grinds for today. Right on cue, their grieving buddy drags himself into the arena, muttering apologies. Our MC catches that heavy guilt-tripping look and mentally raises an eyebrow. The dude basically whispers that his own low-tier stats are the reason his friends ended up in body bags. Ice-cold, our boy hits him with the harsh truth they died because they were trash, plain and simple. Having survived in this pixelated hellscape for over a month now, which translates to exactly 10 days out in the real world. Piecing the clues together, he has completely decoded the player's gaming schedule. The time dilation between their dimension and Earth sits at a clean 3-to-1 ratio. The guy pulling the strings boots up the game exactly 3 times daily. Whenever they hit a combat zone, the clock syncs up perfectly with reality. Without that crucial mechanic, those goblin mobs would have absolutely folded them. Out of nowhere, the floating system guide pops in, aggressively pointing at our MC as the ultimate role model for the group. She is totally mind-blown that he somehow carried an absolute garbage squad all the way through stage 5. When the archer whispers asking why the system admin is hyping him up, he smirks and calls it an industry secret. Off to the side, the pixie starts throwing a massive tantrum at the others, ranting about how she was grinding away organizing menus while these scrubs were literally just chilling in base. Our guy shrugs it off, stating that NPCs will blindly charge in whenever summoned regardless. Simultaneously, the Overlord clicks together a fresh raid group linking him and the archer with 3 random newbies. The archer instantly gets anxious, stressed about dropping into a combat zone with literal strangers. Flexing total confidence, the MC promises her 0 red flags this run, completely changing the vibe as the whole crew queues up in the lobby. He spots the notification flashing that the daily grind dungeon is officially open for business. One of the rookies creeps up to him looking absolutely terrified, stammering that they will basically be useless dead weight compared to his insane stats. Our guy shuts down the panic, explaining there is 0 combat required here. The newly formed squad finally steps through the portal, tasked strictly with a basic loot-gathering quest. A blue hologram pops up, confirming that the terrain and drops completely rotate based on the day of the week. The archer glances around, totally confused by the lack of monster aggro, so he smoothly breaks it down. This zone exists purely to farm crafting items, not catch bodies. The game plan, scavenge loot and chuck it straight into the portal. That junk will eventually be crafted into weapons and essential gear. Catching wind of this, the archer girl double-checks if she gets to skip out on the actual combat. Our guy immediately bursts her bubble. Her roll hits a little differently, and the duo plunges deep into the overgrown woods to score some grub. It doesn't take long before they spot a wild deer roaming around. With 0 hesitation, she snipes it clean out of the brush. Hyped up, she sprints over and flexes her seasoned hunter skills to harvest the prime cuts. Our boy tells her to yeet all that raw material right into the vortex, then peels off to track down his own hidden agenda. Posting up by a roaring waterfall, he checks the clock, barely 30 minutes left on the timer. But luck is on his side. His ultimate target is lurking right there. Enter the Queen of the Forest, an ultra-rare beast that exclusively spawns in this specific daily dungeon biome. Slaying this absolute unit guarantees a low-tier attribute, stone the exact item he needs to hit his 2-star promotion. Wasting 0 time, our boy locks in. He effortlessly slices through the twin monster guards, blocking his path. The queen towers over him like a boss fight, but a wicked smirk creeps onto his face as he embraces the thrill. Cut to him casually lugging her massive severed head back to camp. The squad absolutely loses it, thinking they are getting ambushed. Even the archer girl is totally floored by the sheer size of the beast's skull. Brushing off the chaos, he asks about her haul. She flexes a solid run, 2 deer, and a wild boar easily enough to feed the entire party. Still totally baffled, she wonders why he only dragged back the dome. He shrugs it off, admitting the antlers were way too tough for him to snap. Stepping up, she slices right through that thick bone like butter. Instantly, a system prompt triggers awakening her brand new Hunter of the Forest skill. Meanwhile, our guy bags an elemental stone, a clutch drop used for upgrading gear or boosting hero ranks. Cut back to the lobby, the whole crew is practically drooling at the sight of fresh meat. Once everyone finishes devouring the feast, the protagonist grabs the archer and drags her straight into the next daily instance. A new day means a fresh map rotation, dropping them straight into the Sinmeal Plateau. Scanning the area, the girl questions if hoarding random loot is seriously the key to leveling up. He drops some knowledge on her. Real power comes from absorbing elemental stones, and today, they are farming them hardcore. Peering over the cliffside edge, she gets totally captivated by the breathtaking dungeon scenery. Our MC completely unbothered by the views. locks his eyes on a nearby herb crucial for brewing healing potions. Moving on, the duo teams up to take down a massive dire wolf. He barks at her to carve up the carcass as fast as possible before the rest of the pack catches their scent. The loot drops, scoring him a shiny water elemental stone this time. Honestly, the archer girl is completely in her element and having a blast doing what she knows best. She openly daydreams about this being their permanent lifestyle, just grinding for food and living free without some overbearing master pulling the strings. That specific comment strikes a heavy nerve with our guy considering his own past as a commander. It leaves him spiraling, wondering if his own squad back home felt trapped too. Breaking the silence, he straight up asks if she is totally burnt out on fighting. Dropping a subtle hint, he lets her know that there are non-combat roles back at the base. Plus, she wouldn't even need to stress about being used as synthesis fodder, because her utility skills are top tier. Catching his drift, she playfully teases him, asking if he is trying to recruit her for his own roster. Playing it cool, he brushes it off, saying he will consider it once their survival isn't hanging by a thread. She hits him right back, questioning why he doesn't just tap out and chill too. That comeback just earns a quiet smile from him. Fast forward a few days, their current master assembles a fresh strike team to tackle stage number 6. Their newest party member is Dika, a guy who actually knew the 2 rookies who got wiped out during the last run. Scanning the objective, Han instantly clocks that it's a stealthy exploration quest and orders the squad to hit the dirt. The trio immediately flattens themselves against the ground. He quickly clarifies he just wanted them to keep a low profile. Laying out the strat, he explains they simply need to check off the mission specs, and they can bounce from this floor entirely unharmed. Peeking ahead, the crew spots a goblin patrol, and one of those little freaks is gripping an alarm horn. Red flags instantly go off in our boy's head if they have a collar. There's an entire swarm lurking close by. Perched up high in the branches, the archer scouts out a massive goblin camp, packing well over 100 enemies. Processing the threat, our MC quickly cooks up a lethal strategy. The master plan: wipe out the patrol in dead silence before they can sound the alarm. The new guy gets benched to standby duty, ready to jump in if the operation goes south. Kicking off the blitz, the archer girl flawlessly snipes the target on the far right. Total panic grips the remaining 2. One gets skewered right through the chest while the final goblin frantically raises the horn to its lips. But our boy clutches up, zipping in to literally take its head clean off its shoulders. The second the dust settles, the system notification pops up, floor cleared. Naturally, our protagonist bags the MVP title, along with a fat stash of 5,000 gold. Instantly, the extraction sequence kicks in. Dika looks totally lost, assuming their run is already a wrap, but the hero completely rejects that idea and breaks into a full sprint deeper into the zone. Convinced there's crucial intel for the next level hidden nearby, he pushes his agility to the max. He is dead certain this recon map holds major spoilers for upcoming boss fights. Because even if the dungeon heavily relies on randomized generation, a veteran player knows exactly how to read the hidden patterns. Pushing forward, he eventually stumbles upon a heavily fortified goblin settlement. Peering through the barricades, he spots the mob desperately trying to chain up some ferocious dire wolves. Taking in the sheer scale of the massive enemy base through the wooden slits, the reality of their numbers finally clicks. Out of nowhere, one of the goblin guards gets a bad feeling and snaps its neck toward his exact hiding spot, but only catches the visual of glowing blue pixel dust dissolving into the air. A heartbeat later, the game force teleports the entire squad safely back to the lobby. The archer totally presses him on why he dashed off like a maniac at the end. Playing dumb, he casually lies, claiming he was just zoning out while scanning the perimeter. He makes a mental note: major dungeons always drop subtle breadcrumbs like this, especially the second those linked chain quests officially kick off. Pushing into the unknown triggers an event the system calls a stream. But actually catching these hidden clues, that completely relies on whether their so-called master is actually paying attention to the screen. Frustration bubbles up inside him. He has absolutely zero clue if the guy pulling the strings spotted the exact same details he just witnessed. Plus, a stream dropping this early feels completely off script. It proves the storyline's timeline is accelerating way faster than anyone anticipated. Right on cue, the local cook sprints over, absolutely hyperventilating. "We have a massive situation on our hands," she stammers, revealing that total strangers just crashed their camp. Initially, he brushes it off. Fresh spawns drop into their base all the time. But her eyes go wide as she clarifies these newcomers are fully strapped with weapons and give off incredibly sketchy vibes. It instantly clicks for our boy. Fully equipped right out of the gate, he deduces these gotta be top-tier high-rarity units. Boom system interfaces light up the area, flashing a massive alert to the master. A savage mercenary faction dubbed the Pulverizing Wolves has officially entered the chat. The interface highlights a heavy synergy linking the 5 freshly spawned combatants. Breaking down the mechanics: when characters with deep backstory ties drop together, they unlock a massive squad buff if they fight as a single coordinated raid unit. Our boy side-eyes the glowing fairy that happily manifests out of nowhere. Yep, their master definitely swiped the credit card again. This round, he dropped cash on a starter pack priced at 50,000 won, stacking up to 2,500 gems and 50,000 gold. Catching the terrified trembling of the girl beside him, his suspicions are confirmed. These are absolutely elite-tier heavy hitters. Honestly, if he were holding the controller, he would have pulled these units way sooner to blitz through the 5th floor. He reassures the shivering girl and orders the crew to get back to their daily grind. The camera pans out to the courtyard, focusing on a stunning girl with pitch-black hair. The resident archer girl immediately sprints toward her, totally hyped, and throws out a super friendly greeting. The newcomer, rolling with the name Edith, blinks in sheer confusion but awkwardly waves back. Bouncing on her heels, the archer introduces her to Han, hyping him up as a total softie, despite his intensely intimidating resting face. He subtly runs a scan on her stats. Boom, a 3-star rarity. She slots right into the thief class, rocking super low base strength and a squishy health pool, but her agility scaling is absolutely cracked. She clearly favors dual daggers over ranged bows. Pressing for more intel, he waves her inside for a private chat. Once indoors, she immediately asks if he actually understands where they are. He plays it cool, admitting he holds some pieces of the puzzle, but lacks the full picture, before flipping the interrogation back onto her. Probing her about her initial spawn point, her expression drops into sorrow, as she confesses her memories are completely glitched out. The only thing locked in, she was dragged into this dimension to wage war. Every attempt to dig deeper just triggers a blinding migraine. Hearing this, his curiosity spikes regarding her knowledge on the game's synthesis mechanics. Hesitantly, she details how synthesis works, a brutal feature where a character levels up their power scaling by literally consuming other units. That revelation flips a switch in our boy's head. The lore drops completely depend on a unit's star rating upon summoning. Scanning her rugged, battle-worn gear, he straight up asks if she used to run with a mercenary guild. She nods, confirming she repped the pulverizing wolves. One second she was grinding contracts in Halsia, and the next she just snapped awake in this bizarre realm. This massive detail proves she wasn't just some background NPC. She actually carried serious weight within her veteran squad. The archer totally geeks out over her backstory, calling it insane lore. Blushing slightly, Edith sheepishly asks if she legitimately means it. But then her smile fades heavily, admitting that their current reality has drastically shifted from those glory days. Right on cue, a booming voice echoes through the area, summoning her and the fresh roster. The master is calling them to formation. Our boy simply gestures toward the window, letting her know the main plaza is officially requesting her squad's presence. Meanwhile, a ridiculously jacked dude stomps out of his quarters aggressively, growling about who dared to wake him. She shoots up from her seat, stating plainly that the master pulled their strings, so they have absolutely zero choice but to move. Tearing into a massive chunk of meat, the beef out flexes that it's been ages since he tasted premium loot like this. Honestly, he is genuinely hyped to see who this so-called master actually is. The absolute unit storms off, slamming the heavy door hard enough to rattle the hinges. Seconds later, the terrified cook darts into the hall, frantically explaining how the brute straight up extorted him for food. The guy literally hoarded a massive mountain of provisions, enough calories to sustain 5 whole people. Hearing this, the archer absolutely loses it, demanding they force that tank to cough up their stolen rations. Our boy calmly rises from his chair, declaring, it's time for all of them to crash the central square. Cut to the fresh spawns linking up. They officially lock in their faction name, resurrecting the Pulverizing Wolves title. A glowing system prompt flashes, locking down their party status, and auto-assigning the units into the vacant roster slots. The entire squad is stacked with 3-star hitters, Jake and Wave Bagnon, Edith and Avon taking the front as the raid leader. Back at the square, a random villager is completely tweaking out, whispering that these new guys emit super threatening vibes, primarily because they are literally heavily armed. Our boy deadpans smoothly, reminding the guy that he also carries lethal steel. The villager stammers, desperately trying to backpedal, but Han shuts him down, asking if the squad legitimately looks like a pack of villains. The crowd aggressively nods. Yeah, these new summons exude pure, terrifying dominance. Pivoting to his archer sidekick, he asks for her read on the situation. She admits Edith seems perfectly chill, but the rest of her crew, massive red flags. He swivels back to the shaking mob, staring them down. So, you want me to act as your meat shield? He asks. The cowardly group frantically begs for his protection. A wicked smirk crosses his face. Did you really think a carry service comes free of charge? The terrified guy stutters that they just assumed he'd step up since his stats are so visibly cracked. Looking down on them with absolute zero respect, our boy spits straight facts. They dodge their daily training, grinds 24/7, yet the exact second a real threat drops, they drop to their knees, begging for a free carry. The whole room freezes at his sheer disrespect. In his head, he knows these guys couldn't even hold a candle to Dika's raw power, while they're out here just sweating over dodging the synthesis chamber. Our guy drops a final warning bounce before he loses his cool. Spooked by his killer aura, the dude completely scrambles out of there with his crew. Turning back to the spearman, our MC lays down the harsh truth while he was out there bleeding dry. Swarmed by a horde of goblins, these absolute freeloaders were kicking back, snacking, and catching Z's. They earned zero sympathy today. That's when he spots the rookie, rocking some serious facial bruises, and asks if he caught some hands. The kid brushes it off as just a casual scrap, so the hero tells them to finally take a breather. Right on cue, this brand new squad struts out of the dungeon looking completely unbothered. Honestly, it looked way too like a walk in the park for them. Their top dog spots our guy chilling outside and demands a name. Without missing a beat, the MC claps back, telling him to mind his own damn business, instantly ticking off the whole squad. Swallowing his pride, the boss introduces himself as Avon Dajak, prompting our boy to casually drop his own name. Dajak eyes his gear immediately, assuming he's a fellow gun for hire, but the hero straight up smirks and claims he's just a simple farmer. Dajak's face instantly scrunches up, silently writing him off as total fodder before asking if this pathetic crowd is everyone chilling in the lobby. Suddenly, boom, the master spawns in 10 fresh heroes right on the spot. Our MC blinks, totally caught off guard, until the twisted reality hits him. The second the master cracks open, the glowing synthesis chamber. These newbies, they aren't fighters, they're straight up upgrade material for the elite tiers. While the rookies stand there clueless, the fairy practically shoves them toward the glowing maw. Panic completely takes over the fresh meat, forcing the musclehead of the elite squad to step up, violently dragging 2 of them inside. Watching this sick display, our boy questions if these premium summons genuinely believe they sit at the top of the food chain. Right next to him, the archer girl shudders, whispering that the whole vibe is completely messed up, seeing as these kids are getting tossed to the wolves without throwing a single punch. The hero grits his teeth silently, realizing the master is fumbling a massive opportunity. Sure, the 1-star pool is absolutely flooded with dead weight, but hidden SSR tier talents are buried in there too, and this idiot master is feeding them to the grinder without even checking their stats. Meanwhile, the 3-star brute swaggers out of the chamber glowing with freshly stolen stats, flexing his newly awakened power like an absolute boss. The fairy ruthlessly reads off the next batch of victims, instantly triggering a wave of pure horror and begging. Fed up, the mercenary captain unsheathes his blade, barking orders at his squad to slice down any runners. On command, the entire crew readies their weapons, locking down the perimeter. He snaps his head toward the brooding, dark-haired girl chilling in the back, demanding to know why she's just spectating, when she's literally on their payroll. Catching the hint, she heavily sighs, pulls her dagger, and starts hunting down the terrified rookies. That's when our boy interrupts, ordering the fairy to forward a loud and clear message to the master: quit mashing heroes together blindly, and actually run a basic appraisal first. Startled, she pops up, her glowing hollow keyboard aggressively, types out his complaint and fires it off, tagging it with a warning about throwing away top-tier assets. The beefcake mercenary instantly snaps at the disrespect, stepping right into the MC's personal space, growling at him to back the hell off. Unfazed, the hero keeps his voice deadpan, claiming he isn't blocking their hustle at all. He's just dropping some free strategy tips for the big boss. Flashing the most disrespectful smirk imaginable, he looks the giant up and down, asking if he's got a problem with that. The brute completely loses his mind, hurling curses and swinging his massive axe. But before it connects, zip, a stray arrow whizzes millimeters past his skull. The archer girl lowers her bow coldly, stating that the miss was a highly intentional warning shot. This pushes the giant off the deep end, and instantly, his entire squad forms up for a beatdown. Leveling his glowing blade right at our boy's chest, the captain sneers, asking if this farm boy even comprehends who he's messing with. Staring him dead in the eye, the MC drops the mic. They are nothing but literal garbage. Ding. The floating system UI flashes red, announcing that our hero has officially triggered a hostile engagement with the elite squad. The whole crew glares daggers at him, ready to shed blood, until the fairy panic dives into the middle, throwing her hands up and screaming that PvP is strictly disabled unless they want a brutal penalty from the master. But our boy instantly calls her bluff, stating that rule literally does not exist. Sweating bullets, the tiny guide realizes she's completely busted, with zero backup excuses. Brushing her off, the hero pivots back to the glaring mercenaries, daring them to drop the tough guy act. He completely exposes them. They aren't real mercenaries, just glorified street thugs playing dress-up. The captain's patience snaps like a twig. He fiercely vows he won't let that slide straight up, asking if the kid is begging for a death wish. Completely ignoring the threat, our guy looks at the fairy and declares that keeping this trash around will aggressively tank the settlement's stats and heavily bottleneck the master's late-game scaling. To him, these thugs are just walking liabilities, who breed chaos and nuke efficiency, pure deadweight begging to be deleted. The poor fairy is left completely speechless. Catching the vibe, the hero flashes a devilish grin, raises one hand and loudly proposes a high-stakes duel to settle the beef. Instantly, the system blares across the lobby, locking in an official challenge against the enemy captain. The dude's jaw practically hits the floor. utterly baffled about why this kid is targeting them out of nowhere. Our guy just shrugs, telling him to treat him like a rabid dog off its leash, ready to bite whoever crosses his path. He adds that he sees right through their little charade, loudly pointing out how they maliciously manipulated the entire resident pool earlier on. These goons literally just rounded up the entire plaza, for one reason, scouting to see if anyone here was actually built different. Spotting nothing but absolute lightweights, their cockiness completely skyrockets. But our boy steps up, pitching a high-stakes one-on-one to settle the score. The crazy rules. The winner literally absorbs the loser. That bandit boss flashes a wicked grin, absolutely eating up the idea. Right on cue, the system chimes in, locking down the duel and triggering those insane synthesis conditions. That familiar duel prompt finally flashes across the master screen, but instead of instantly tapping, accept, his thumb totally hovers over decline. Catching this hesitation, our guy wonders if the boss is actually getting cold feet. Brushing it off, he signals the archer girl to evacuate the crowd, perfectly confident in his own hype. Feeding off that main character energy, the master finally locks in his acceptance. The terms are officially set. Nobody stops swinging until somebody begs for mercy. The villain knows he cannot just pack him up. A dark sacrifice demands a breathing vessel, not a lifeless corpse. Meanwhile, our protagonist shoots a look to his fairy companion, ordering her to block anyone trying to third-party this brawl. Pissed that our boy has not even touched his weapon, the enemy lunges instantly, but the hero just coldly analyzes him, scanning his stats and realizing this dude is pushing a solid 20 in strength. Not just that, his blade work is already sitting at level 3. Out of nowhere, the guy pops his berserker skill, his pupils glowing a toxic blood red. He might be acting incredibly tough, but this raider severely miscalculated. Our boy's actual power level is playing in a completely different universe. The very second the countdown hits 0, our protagonist absolutely blitzes him, moving like an untouchable blur. Weaving right past a lethal swing, he manifests behind the boss, traps his arm, palms the back of his skull, and violently craters him straight into the dirt. The guy eats solid pavement, his face dragging aggressively against jagged rocks as he shrieks out in pure agony. Zero hesitation from our hero. He casually draws his blade, twirling it single-handedly, like a total pro, radiating pure, unadulterated boss energy. Sinking the cold steel straight into the newcomer's ribs, he drops a bone-chilling command to freeze. The man wails, completely shattering under the mind-numbing pain. Han towers over him, demanding a crystal-clear surrender. The dude attempts to speak, but it fractures into pure, agonizing shrieks, melting his words into absolute gibberish. Watching this brutal beatdown unfold, one of his squad mates finally snaps, stepping up and begging our MC to chill. Han just locks eyes with him, rocking zero emotion. He hits him with a harsh truth check. His crew literally gave 0 drops of sympathy for anyone else, like 2 seconds ago. The guy tries to spin it, claiming the vibes are totally different, but our boy isn't buying that garbage. Han lays down the law, this is a strict one-on-one, and the loser needs to spit out an official forfeit. Before the bruised leader can even gasp for air, our guy practically glues his hand over the dude's mouth, announcing that since Diego is playing the quiet game, the slaughter continues. He shoots a death glare at the buddy, stating, Diego is strictly his prey now, and he calls all the shots. The remaining 2 squad mates are frozen on the sidelines, completely losing their minds in panic. Pivoting toward the female member, our hero casually asks if her crew are actually legit mercenaries. She dodges the question, prompting Han to instantly call them out for being straight-up bandits. He questions why she is even wasting her time with this trash, and casually drops an invite for her to join his squad. She literally freezes up, stuck in this massive tug-of-war between loyalty and pure terror. Her teammate instantly loses his mind, screaming that she better not backstab them. Taking advantage of the screaming match, the battered leader sneaks his hand out, desperately lunging for his blade. Right as his fingertips graze the hilt, our MC violently stabs his own blade straight into the dirt, instantly pinning the rat down again. Locking eyes with the girl, he drops the ultimate ultimatum. His roster only has 1 vacant slot left. Her ex-teammate pops off again, absolutely fuming, but shaking uncontrollably. She squeezes her eyes shut and bites the bullet. She turns her back on her toxic crew and secures her spot with our hero. Her old squad shoots absolute daggers of rage at her, but our boy simply laughs in their faces, telling them they are basically irrelevant NPCs now, and to bounce. Meanwhile, he cranks up the pressure on the pinned leader, questioning if he is absolutely certain about tapping out knowing the brutal price. The boss tries to flex one last time, spitting a warning that Han will regret this. Out of nowhere, one of the goons charges in to play hero, but the little fairy instantly blocks his path. Seeing this, the rest of the gang jumps the gun, swarming her all at once. Big mistake. A split second later, blood-curdling screams echo out as their bodies are literally ragdolled across the battlefield. Han coldly reminds them they got their warning, but they chose to be deaf. The grounded leader watches his entire squad get packed up, shaking like a leaf. As the horrific realization kicks in, he totally aggroed the wrong boss. Trapped in a corner, he officially throws in the towel. prompting our boy to instantly switch off his berserker mode. His glowing aura fades as a nasty migraine hits him, proving that abusing that insanely overpowered state drains his stamina way worse than he calculated. A holographic system prompt pops up confirming the defeated leader is officially marked as synthesis fodder for holding the L. The player controlling them off-screen completely loses his mind, aggressively mashing the interface to cancel the animation. But our MC just smirks at the sky, casually roasting the master. If he didn't want the smoke, he never should have clicked, except on that duel. He steps out of the glowing synthesis pod, successfully boosting 2 of his active skills. The fairy is low-key stressing that their salty master might actually rage quit the server, considering he swiped his credit card hard just to watch his premium pulls get instantly dusted. Han talks her down, dropping the ultimate logic. If this whale was going to uninstall, he would have done it ages ago, especially after feeding that ultra-rare 4-star knight to him earlier. Suddenly, a fresh level-up alert chimes, confirming our boy is completely maxed out and officially ready for his class promotion. Our guy feels a tiny fraction of guilt for trashing the master's expensive 3-star roster, but honestly, it is a massive long-term win, because those toxic players were bound to ruin the lobby vibes anyway. Cruising at level 10 now, his base stats are literally rivaling the premium characters. If the player is dumb enough to melt him down for parts right now, his account is totally bricked for the upcoming dungeons. Feeling insanely confident, our MC glares straight up at the sky, daring the literal god of the game to try and scrap him. The moment he steps back into the lobby, the crowd erupts into massive cheers. He lightly squishes the archer girl's cheeks, playfully interrogating if she leaked the news. The veteran roster surrounds him, hyped that he took out the trash, since those arrogant newbies were destroying the peace. But instead of soaking up the hype, our MC drops a heavy sigh and shatters their illusion. He definitely did not do this for them. The only lives he cared about were the fresh recruits who just spawned in, meaning zero protection for the lazy bums already loitering around. Catching the drift, a veteran guy starts stammering, demanding to know what he is plotting. A wicked grin flashes across Han's face as he drops the bomb. Their player is currently malding in real life. Right on cue, the system fairy announces that 6 members are getting drafted. The archer is totally thrown off, knowing damn well the max party size is only 5. Han coldly breaks it to her. This is not a raid formation. This is a literal sacrifice ritual. While the veteran dudes start throwing massive tantrums, our boy pivots to the spear user, and Dika asking point blank if any of these freeloaders actually lifted a finger when they were grinding for their lives. The archer tries to defend them, claiming they carried some leftover loot, and hides from the beasts she slaughtered. But our hero is having none of it. He straight up calls them useless livestock, prompting one of the triggered veterans to aggressively charge at him. He plants a brutal kick right across the guy's jaw just as that tiny fairy zips in, demanding everyone step outside. Our favorite archer glances around, wondering who's next on the chopping block for synthesis. He shoots her a look, betting his money on that rookie 3-star girl, considering her stats are basically garbage right now. Spot on. A literal wave of weeping low-tier heroes gets marched straight to the grinder, all sacrificed to boost her up. Boom, instant level up. The glowing energy fades and she unlocks a massive perk, Trap Disarm. The dust settles and our boy steps up. Staring down the crowd, he lays down the law. Veteran or rookie, nobody gets a free ride anymore. You want to live, start pulling your weight, he barks. Instantly, an older guy whines about his age, holding up shaking hands that can barely grip a blade. He doesn't even blink. He pivots straight to the support crew, ordering them to pass down their crafts to anyone willing to put in the hours. Can't fight, then learn to hunt. Build something. Swinging a sword isn't the only way to cheat death in this hellhole. Ping. The system flashes, letting them know the master has officially logged off. The archer smirks, nudging him. Look at you playing the nice guy, actually giving out survival hacks. He rolls his eyes and waves her off, but deep down he knows she caught him slipping. He just wants to stop watching people die for absolutely nothing. Plus, the clock is ticking. Stage 10 is creeping up fast. They desperately need a backup squad that hits just as hard as the main roster. Fast forward to morning light, Chloe ambushes him with a fresh plate of bread. He raises an eyebrow, examining the crust. Turns out she teamed up with a former pastry chef to start baking. Only problem, they're practically out of wheat. His solution is simple: hit up the daily dungeon and farm that grain. Stepping out into the crisp air, he spots the raven-haired girl and signals her to tag along. They trek straight to the sparring arena. The archer is already sweating through drills. He whistles to grab her attention, ordering a spar against the newbie. But here's the catch: melee weapons only, daggers. She groans, swearing she's useless without her bow, but he shuts that down fast. And guess what? She was totally bluffing. She flows with those twin blades, like a pro, pushing the rookie to her absolute limit. The new girl is fighting for her life, narrowly slipping past vicious swipes. Minutes later, the rookie drops to her knees, gasping for air. Panting, she asks if these two are secretly heirs to some legendary martial arts clan. The archer literally laughs out loud. Nah, just a regular hunter, she claims, pointing out that our boy used to be total trash at fighting too. It was all pure, agonizing grind. He chimes in, dropping harsh facts. If her old squad had actually grinded stats instead of stirring up drama, they might have actually left a scratch on him. He looks right at the rookie. She might be weak now, but her potential is off the charts compared to those deadbeats. Since they both started from rock bottom, as one-star units, a little blood, sweat, and tears is all she needs to catch up to the heavy hitters. That sparks a fire in her eyes. Swiping the grime off her forehead, she pushes herself back up, promising to lock in. By sunrise, the training grounds are absolutely packed. A massive crowd of terrified heroes has flooded in, desperate to avoid the synthesis meat grinder. Scanning the mob, our guy's eyes narrow. The math isn't mathing. People are missing, even if they try to hide in the backlines. Safe zones are filling up fast. Eventually blood will be shed. Through the crowd, he locks eyes with a quiet dude in the back and marches over to get a name. Asher, the guy mumbles, making it crystal clear he knows why the grind matters. Our boy instantly catches the solid, balanced stance Asher naturally holds. It's impressive. What was your gig before this? He asks. Asher admits he was just a glorified pack mule for mercs, never holding a sword, always carrying the bags. But the dude was always starving for the front lines. A slow grin spreads across the hero's face. Without missing a beat, he throws down a challenge. Time to see if this bag boy actually has that dog in him. Fast forward to dusk, the overlords get greedy again, feeding more fresh meat into the system. You'd think the spear-wielding tryhard would get the buff, but nope, he gets totally bypassed. Instead, the master picks Asher for the power-up. In a flash of light, Asher skyrockets straight to level 3. While that goes down, the rest of the crew is busy grinding those daily dungeons. But that damn Firestone dungeon is still locked tight. Frustrated but focused, our boy rallies the core squad into the courtyard later that afternoon. He crosses his arms and drops the question. Anyone know why we're here? Cue absolute crickets. They just stare at him like he grew a second head. Finally, the kid breaks the silence, guessing it's draft time. The archer frowns, pointing out that only the master has the authority to build rosters. True, he smirks, but I can heavily influence his choices. With a flick of his wrist, he pulls out a cup holding 4 little slips of paper. It's roulette time. Whatever color you pull dictates your squad. With a grand total of 6 heavy hitters standing there, they need 2 alphas to run the show. He instantly crowns himself and the dark-haired girl as the commanding officers. She tries to push the title onto the archer, but he cuts her off cold. She's not built for leadership, he states. He then drops the harsh reality of why they are splitting up. Stacking all their big guns in one basket is pure suicide right now. He reminds them of the bloodbath in Stage 5. The power gap was so massive it got 2 of their own slaughtered. To stop history from repeating itself, they have to divide and conquer. From here on out, the stakes are multiplying. They are stepping into war zones that demand multiple strike forces and hundreds of bodies. Shaking the cup, he announces the rules: pull red, and you ride with him. Pull blue, you're rolling with Team Edith. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's all one massive fight for survival anyway. With their power levels totally matched, the OG squad snags the red team, leaving the fresh meat to form Party 2. Catching their hesitant vibes, the raven-haired girl raises an eyebrow. What? Don't trust me? She shrugs it off, admitting it makes complete sense, since she's the new kid on the block with 0 stats. Our guy immediately shoots her down, warning that dragging their feet means getting left in the dust by the main crew. Smirking at the challenge, she boldly claims that's never going to happen. Up above, fresh team comps pop up on the master's screen. The moment he logs in, it's an instant lock. Fast forward a bit, and the Alpha Squad gets deployed to sweep Floor 7. It's just another goblin infestation. The crew cracks their knuckles, absolutely certain this will be a total cakewalk. But Han stops them in their tracks, telling everyone to just sit back and grab some popcorn. Without hesitation, he steps up and pops his berserker mode. His muscles bulge as he goes completely feral, tearing through the green mob like a blender and leaving absolutely 0 survivors. Well, except for one trembling goblin pinned under his icy glare. Watching this bloodbath, the archer demands to know what his endgame is. He coolly replies that it's time to do some scouting. Our MC absolutely refuses to nuke this level, until he secures a solid clue for whatever nightmare comes next. Right before executing the final mob, his eyes lock onto the rushing river water. A shattered dam, that's a massive intel drop. Satisfied with the loot, the squad teleports back to the lobby. Mid-conversation, a glowing system prompt flashes before his eyes. The master is rolling the gacha for new units. And these aren't your basic freebies, these are premium paid pulls, meaning absolute powerhouses are inbound. Realizing the stakes, our guy barks an order at the archer to sprint to his quarters and grab the lottery slips while tossing the spearman to go fetch the raven-haired girl. Up in the sky, the master slams the confirm button and top-tier recruits materialize in a blinding burst of light. Han saw this coming from a mile away, knowing their overlord is a certified whale. After all, this twisted game is pure digital crack. It hands players a massive god complex, letting them micromanage their little virtual action figures. And the deeper you dive into the levels, the wilder the mechanics get. The flash fades, revealing 2 fresh faces in the hub. First up is Roderick, a dude built like a brick wall. Standing next to him is Iolka, who literally looks like she just wandered straight out of a fairy tale castle. Both are rocking a solid 3-star rarity. Obviously, getting yanked through dimensions has left them completely shell-shocked. The princess lookalike actually faceplants the second she tries to walk. Jogging back into the room, the archer blinks and demands to know who the new girl is. Han waves off the concern bluntly, stating she needs to pick herself up. Watching this brutal welcome, the dark-haired girl slides up next to him. She points out the obvious: the rookie screams high society, basically a pampered noble who probably couldn't swing a sword to save her life. On the flip side, the tanky dude is an ex-city guard fueled by pure, righteous energy. He clenches his fists, declaring a sudden burning need to smash some monsters. "Is that our job here?" he asks. Han barely spares him a glance, promising a full tutorial right after they handle the draft picks. The rules are dead simple. Pull the blue slip for the veteran brawler, or score the red one for Cinderella. Scanning the merch, the squad instantly decides the grizzled tank is the absolute carry. As the archer hustles over with the lottery cup, Han's sharp eyes catch a sliver of the red paper. He spots the dark-haired girl fighting a smirk and realizes she definitely saw it too. The second the cup hits the floor, both team captains dive straight for the winning blue slip. But in a split-second twist, the clumsy princess casually drops a blazing fireball. Everything changes. Mid-air, the captains aggressively pivot and snatch the red slip instead. Han's brain short-circuits as he connects the dots. This isn't some helpless royal, she's a literal nuke. Suddenly, everybody wants her in their lineup. Here's the meta: you can farm basic meat shields and rogues just by grinding out your trash tier 1-star units. But spellcasters, they are strictly locked behind a premium paywall, sporting utterly garbage drop rates. Watching the two leaders violently bicker, the archer pieces together their rigged little game and demands a reshuffle. Off to the side, the pyro princess tilts her head, completely baffled by the chaos. Han shoots her a straight look. "We're fighting over who gets to keep you." The grizzled guard sighs, telling the kid to use her brain and read the room for once. The gears slowly turn in her head before it finally clicks, leaving her staring at them with absolute unfiltered disgust. Marching back with the cup, the archer threatens them to play fair. Both captains reach in, letting fate take the wheel. And our MC Clutch pulls the red ticket. The walking nuke officially joins his roster, but a sudden chilling scream shatters the hype. They whip around just in time to see the system fairy ruthlessly dragging some poor player toward the grinder. He's screaming for mercy, but it's totally useless. Han recognizes the grim reality: that guy failed to learn even a basic healing spell. He turns to the terrified mage and motions toward the heavy metal doors. "Get in there and upgrade," he warns, "unless she wants to be recycled next." Once she steps out, he drops a harsh reality check: grind like your life depends on it, because it literally does. Finally, the veteran guard steps up to the plate, walking out of the brutal synthesis machine, fully leveled up and ready for war. The master decides to use the upcoming stages as a literal crash course for the newbies. Party 2 gets called up first and vanishes into the dungeon. Meanwhile, our boy locks eyes with the new mage girl, demanding a quick rundown of her magic kit. She catches an attitude, wondering why he cares, but our MC shuts that down, demanding straight facts. Clearly, she's not thrilled about risking her neck in a totally random zone. For a guy she literally just met, he hits her with a brutal reality check. She is not fighting for him. She is fighting to keep breathing. His face shifts into deadpan menace as he repeats the question. Intimidated, she plops onto a bench and flexes that she is a pyro, bragging that her ultimate move is a third circle flame strike. Crossing his arms, he probes deeper, checking if she has got any blink abilities or utility buffs in her arsenal. With major main character syndrome, she boasts that anyone rocking 3 runes can handle support, hyping herself up like she is about to blow his mind. Our boy scans her and instantly cringes internally. He just prays her actual damage output matches that massive ego. To him, defensive utility absolutely clears raw damage any day. He is only grilling her because she is running around without a visible stat screen. And he needs to figure out if she is a late bloomer, waiting for an awakening, even if the odds are basically 0. Dead serious, he asks if she grasps that she is stuck in their squad from here on out. Just then, the dark-haired girl and her crew strut out of the portal looking way too chill. One look at her smug face tells him that warrior dude definitely overperformed. He waves Jenna and Aaron over. It is showtime for their squad. Stepping through the rift, he figures they are bound for floor 4 since the 5th level is strictly off-limits. Clashing with aerial mobs should be the perfect vibe check for the mage's actual talent. He warns the team to pull their punches so the newbie can pop off and show her worth. Literally any of them could solo this zone, so she should be totally fine. But the mage starts sweating buckets, stammering out excuses about how she has got this, but she operates on a unique rhythm. When he demands her to drop the cryptic act, she just promises a massive surprise once the fighting starts. Right before the dungeon doors swing wide, the guide fairy shoots our boy a deeply concerned glance and whispers, "Good luck." Instant red flag. Panic spikes. He mentally curses out the master and screams for the squad to draw weapons. The terrain around them is floor 8, nowhere near floor 4. Gritting his teeth, he wonders if the master is being petty over their last dispute. The clueless mage glances around, casually dropping that the map looks familiar. Out of nowhere, our MC roars for everyone to hit the dirt. She just stands there blinking completely, missing the lethal arrow screaming toward her face. Our boy tackles her hard into the dust. Hearing the projectile whistle overhead, his face darkens. He already knows exactly what kind of hellspawn they just aggroed. A glowing blue system prompt drops, locking in their nightmare. Welcome to floor 8. The objective: wipe out 27 level 9 goblin raiders. Cue an absolute stampede of green skin charging their position. Jenna snaps her bowstring instantly, sniping a rider straight off his dire wolf mount. Meanwhile, our hero barks at Aaron to push the front line and counter. The second they hit melee distance. Pivoting back to check the mage, he desperately hoists his shield, just in time to eat a massive explosion. Ears ringing, he barely regains his footing before another feral goblin lunges for his throat. He sidesteps flawlessly, arcs his blade, and bifurcates the freak in midair. But the mob keeps flooding in, forcing him to call for Aaron's backup. Bro slides in clutch, impaling a mounted goblin right off its wolf. However, the dying monster somehow levels a loaded crossbow, aiming straight for Aaron's chest. The hero dashes in, parrying the bolt with his shield, and furiously screams at the mage to unleash hell. She is just frozen there like a deer in headlights. He snaps that she literally hyped herself up as a wizard, so she needs to start blasting. But get this, she drops the bomb that her cast time is a full 60 seconds. Tanking this horde for a whole minute is insane, but they are completely out of options. Slicing through another green neck, he spots her, finally shutting her eyes and muttering her incantation. He spins around, ordering Aaron to play bodyguard and deflect incoming projectiles, so Jenna can keep raining arrows unbothered. The spearman twirls his weapon like a blender, creating an absolute safe zone around the archer. But watching the mob surge, our boy realizes the enemies are hard, focusing their squishy mage, and he sprints over to draw their attention. He tries to play the meat shield, but holding the line solo against this sheer volume is basically suicide. The clock is ticking, and he glances back, begging to know if her fire blast can actually melt through goblin armor. Meanwhile, Miss Useless just keeps murmuring her spell, completely ignoring him. Watching the absolute wall of enemies enclosing them, Jenna screams at the mage to fall back, before she gets shredded. Turns out casting literally roots her in place, making her a sitting duck as the gnashing horde swarms her position, ready to rip her apart. Our boy braces his shield to tank a charging wolf rider, but the sheer momentum pushes him back. He goes absolute beast mode, hacking limbs off while rabid wolves snap at his face, but the waves just never end. Crimson paints the dirt as he executes another beast. Suddenly, a high-pitched shriek pierces the chaos. He snaps his head toward the mage just as a grinning goblin arcs its rusty blade right for her neck. Talk about a clutch save, our guy literally snatches the mage and yanks her out of the danger zone, right in the nick of time. He totally chews her out for charging up an attack while leaving herself wide open like a sitting duck. The squad books it straight toward the tree line. Panic dripping from her voice, the archer reminds everyone that this woodland area got completely locked down just a minute ago. But our main character isn't sweating the details, brushing it off and declaring they will cross that bridge when they get there. Still hauling the spellcaster by her collar, he barks out a crazy battle plan the second they hit the shadows of the trees. She needs to channel her mana and nuke the entire zone. All the color drains from her face as the monstrous swarm creeps closer, but she manages a shaky nod. Dashing ahead, the archer hollers that she just spotted an opening in the barrier. Catching that update, our boy pivots his strategy and orders the magic user to ditch him and rush through the gap alone. When she starts whining about his toxic attitude, he literally boots her right through the entrance, bluntly dropping the reality check that he cannot bully her if she gets slaughtered out here. Screeching to an absolute halt, he screams for the rest of his crew to keep pushing forward while instantly triggering his awakening. In a heartbeat, razor-sharp fangs rip through his gums, while an insanely aggressive crimson energy erupts from his body, slamming him straight back into berserker mode for the second time today. Pure exhaustion is practically crushing his bones, yet he plants his feet like a brick wall, right in the path of the monstrous stampede. He has to buy his squad some precious time. One of the ugly green creeps snipes a deadly bolt right at his head, but he effortlessly deflects it with his heavy shield, just as a second rider closes the gap at breakneck velocity. Ducking under the swipe, he violently struggles to maintain his balance, while a chaotic hail of weapon strikes bombards him from every possible angle. His muscles completely give out under the overwhelming pressure, sending him crashing hard into the dirt. In a flash, a suffocating sea of enemies swallows him whole, mercilessly, jumping him from all sides. Bracing his guts for the next bone-crushing blow, our guy locks eyes with a creeping goblin and tightens his grip to counter an incoming blitz. Exploding from the ground like a human tornado, he plows through the mob to totally cripple their annoying speed advantage. Smashing his heavy gear straight into a freak's ugly face, he refuses to quit brawling despite being trapped in a literal meat grinder. Forced to watch his bro tank this nightmare solo, Aaron desperately screams his name, and right on cue, a massive sneak attack clobbers the hero directly in the spine. A harsh digital system prompt flashes across his vision, brutally announcing that his frenzy state has hit its limit. Standing victoriously over his paralyzed body, a monster lifts its deadly polearm for the kill. Psych. Twisting his body in a flash, he brutally shoves his steel straight through the beast's ribcage. A massive fountain of crimson erupts from both the mount and the rider. Tearing his blood-soaked edge out of the canine's snapping mouth, a fresh wave of nightmares floods into his personal space. Panic hits the spear-wielding homie, who immediately tries to rush out and jump into the chaotic bloodbath. Han aggressively barks at him to stay glued behind the tree line. His master plan aggro the entire mob and kite them far from the safety zone. Weaving through deadly lunges by a hair's breadth, he shoots a desperate glance to see if their magic heavy hitter is fully charged. Right on cue, the bow-wielding sniper shrieks that the nuke is locked and loaded. The second those words hit his ears, our dude guns it across the wasteland, dragging a massive screeching tsunami of green freaks dead on his heels. Catching insane air, he backflips through a storm of weapons, physically uses a goblin's skull as a stepping stone, and hits top gear right as the spellcaster's devastating magic flickers to life. A terrifyingly deep crimson glow engulfs the girl, floating her hair wildly in the building pressure drop. The very earth starts violently quaking beneath their feet, sending shockwaves through the soil. Playing the ultimate bait, our guy strings the mob along until her eyelids snap open, and she drops the absolute hammer ignite. A colossal tsunami of raw flames violently erupts from her palms, completely washing over the war zone. Scorching heat practically singes our hero's eyebrows as the inferno blasts past him, immediately triggering a deafening, earth-shattering detonation. Glancing back at the carnage, his jaw practically hits the floor at the sheer destructive scale of her kit. Without missing a beat, she unleashes a second laser of pure heat that literally melts anything dumb enough to stand in its path. Peeking from behind massive oak bark, the sniper is utterly shook, absolutely paralyzed by the apocalyptic firepower going off right in front of her. Meanwhile, our boy catches sight of extra green scavengers bursting through the firewall and instantly yells for backup. He keeps swinging his heavy blade, but it is super obvious that extreme fatigue is nerfing his reaction time. Despite running on empty, taking an L is not on his bingo card today. He pivots his game plan, deciding to tap into his special abilities to wipe out the trash since pure muscle is fading fast. Tanking a brutal chop with his metal guard, he smoothly counters and decapitates a beast in one flawless motion. Out of nowhere, a high-velocity shaft violently zips past his ear and snipes a target dead center. Flashing a super cocky grin, the sharpshooter teases him, asking if she is finally pulling her weight around here. In that exact moment, the polearm bro jumps into the fray and spectacularly executes a mounted unit, confidently declaring he will take the aggro if the main boss is running out of steam. Our guy playfully claps back, telling his bro his ego is getting way too inflated. A fresh volley of projectiles fills the sky, while Jenna vaults into the atmosphere to dodge a terrifying melee swipe. Slipping right through the deadly arc, she viciously buries her close-quarters blade deep into the freak's ugly green skull. A massive, masterless direwolf suddenly breaks formation, making a chaotic mad dash straight for the spellcaster, who is still completely zoned out, blindly channeling her Phase 2 attack. Inches away from tearing her throat out, the beast gets absolutely folded by a pinpoint headshot. The archer screams at the magic user to snap out of her trance and reposition immediately, but Homegirl is literally in the zone and practically deaf to the world. A terrifying vortex of fire wraps around her arm, while glowing ancient symbols brightly illuminate her focused features. The sharpshooter starts hyperventilating perfectly, sensing that the payload needs more time, but the caster's eyes snap open at the perfect millisecond. Sensing the impending doom, the hero and polearm bro tactically fall back, kiting the dumb monsters with them. Crushing her fingers into a tight fist, the girl detonates yet another apocalyptic shockwave of pure scorching energy. The actual dirt beneath the horde superheats to boiling point, loudly fractures and violently erupts. A blistering gale of raw heat rips through the entire zone, literally vaporizing every single obstacle standing in its way. Throwing up his arms to block the blinding flash, our guy realizes that if she keeps dropping nukes like this, their own squad is going to become collateral damage. As the intense smoke finally clears, he scans the totally glassed battlefield, desperately praying that this chaotic deathmatch has reached its end. Plot twist: a fresh squad of mounted freaks bursts right out of the lingering ash clouds. Without a second of hesitation, the magic user counters by manifesting an absolutely massive tornado of raging fire. The swirling cyclone of pure hellfire ruthlessly shreds the surviving stragglers into dust. Fighting the insane wind pressure, Jenna desperately hugs a nearby tree trunk for dear life. A wall of pure hellfire erupts across the battlefield, torching everything in sight just so the violent shockwave wouldn't blow her away. She just stands there completely locked in, while our boy stares at the absolute canyon her spell just carved into the earth. Right on cue, the system chimes in stage, completely obliterated. The game crowns her MVP on the spot, handing out level ups for both her and the spear dude, before the squad dips out of the zone. Aaron's jaw is practically on the floor as he points out she just vaporized over 20 goblin riders in the blink of an eye. Smirking like an absolute boss, she brags that this is just the raw beauty of fire magic designed specifically to drop jaws. Hand dramatically on her chest, she formally introduces herself as the legendary witch of Count River's spirit. But literally a second later, her nose erupts like a fountain, and she faceplants. Our boy rushes over quickly, realizing she just zeroed out her entire mana pool. He runs the numbers in his head, 0 utility spells and physical stats so garbage they look like a trash tier 1-star unit. Having commanded countless mages in his past life, he's seen every caster build out there, but this girl is totally off the charts. It is not that these pure nuke builds are a myth, they are just essentially shiny, ultra-rare drops. She is basically a glass cannon, all armor stripped away, leaving nothing but world-ending firepower. A literal walking nuke. As the archer girl hauls the unconscious mage onto her back, our hero admits they seriously need to strategize around this insane damage output. Riding that high, the squad steps through the exit portal, though our boy Loki realizes his days of hard carrying the team are numbered. Fast forward to the next morning, and the Master's first priority is dropping a magical hub straight into the system interface. Booting up the city map, the game flashes a prompt asking him where to drop the new infrastructure. Boom! A high-tech magical research lab spawns in, instantly unlocking a fresh skill tree. Next up, an alchemy lab for crafting gear, followed by a massive library so their spellcasters can actually hit the books and level up their brains. The system then flexes a crazy animation fusing these 3 structures near the training grounds into one ultimate mega complex, known as the Magic Hall. Cut to the training yard where our mage girl is currently fighting for her life, drenched in sweat and whining about why royalty like her has to do cardio. She fiercely defends her build, claiming she is meant to outsmart enemies, not outrun them. But our hero is not having it. If she is going to stand still chanting spells, she needs to know how to slip a punch. Blowing right past her on the track, he tells her to pick up the pace, completely tuning out her endless complaining. Her magical stats might be god tier, but if her stamina hits 0 mid-fight, she is dead meat. Panting heavily, she tries to flex that her fancy dress is actually a busted family heirloom, designed to max out her damage. Our boy does not care. 3 painfully slow laps with 0 extra weight is basically a warm-up compared to the hellish grinds from his past life. Threatening her with a sad potato dinner, if she slacks off he hits the gas and leaves her in the dust. He even takes a playful jab at the Master, calling him out for just spectating from the sidelines. Internally, he knows they scored big time. Bagging a high-damage mage right before the brutal 10th floor is clutch, especially with the Magic Hall finally operational. Plus, thanks to that fire attribute stone they looted from the dungeon, it is officially time to start brewing some life-saving juice. Right on cue, a system alert pops up, showing that the Master has gone offline. Over on the track, the archer girl acts as the ultimate hype woman, cheering for the struggling mage to push past the pain. Usually, you would need a max-level alchemist to brew potions, but this game has a crazy cheat code where you can just beat a minigame instead of grinding the profession. Posted up inside the new Magic Hall, our boy flips through a massive grimoire, only to realize the text is literal gibberish to him. Tossing the book aside, he eyes the massive cauldron. It is time to cook. The crafting system turns out to be a straight-up rhythm game, and since his timing is flawless, he easily hits a perfect combo, brewing up a batch of basic health potions. Checking his inventory a few minutes later, he is hyped to see 6 glowing red vials and 2 blue mana potions locked and loaded. Sure, the Master might question where this stash came from, but catching a little suspicion beats catching a game over screen any day. Fast forward to nighttime. He gathers the squad around the fire, hyping up the fact that they finally have a resident spellcaster. Gesturing toward a blazing hot brazier, he tells everyone to lock in and pay close attention to his next move. Flashing a totally unhinged grin, he warns them not to blink. The team's eyes practically pop out of their skulls as this madman casually plunges his bare hand straight into the scorching coals. Not even flinching, he drops some brutal logic. If they are going to fight alongside a fire mage, they need to build up some serious heat resistance. He literally counts down the seconds while his flesh roasts before yanking out a brutally charred smoking hand. Ignoring the gnarly burns, he flexes that it is no big deal, showing off how insanely fast the lobby's passive regeneration patches him right up. The archer girl is practically shaking in her boots, begging to know if they seriously have to kick things off right this second. The other dude is sweating bullets, staring at the floor and asking when this nightmare ends. Our main guy shuts that down fast. They only get to tap out when their bodies completely give up. Deep down, he knows there is 0 room for mercy. They have to grind through this insane torture session until that fire resistance buff finally triggers. He drops a harsh reality check, forcing them to replay that massive screw-up on floor number 5 when they let their guard down. Right as the guy braces himself to shove his bare hand into the blazing flames, our MC snatches his wrist. In a dead serious whisper, he orders him to practice this madness behind closed doors, because listening to people scream their lungs out is not his vibe. The girl clenches her fists, literally trembling, as she fiercely protests being dragged into this literal roast session, arguing she is strictly a backline fighter anyway. Flashing a wicked smirk, he violently yanks her hand toward the raging inferno, hyping her up that suffering together makes the scorching heat way more bearable. He drops facts on her. She cannot totally lose her mind in panic every single time their fire mage launches an attack. Out on the battlefield, she has 0 shields and absolutely no teleportation hacks. If the front line crumbles, she is instantly dead meat. Dodging even the most basic strikes is a massive struggle for her. Bottom line, Jenna has to conquer her fear of flames before they hit floor number 10. Out of nowhere, our hero whips out a razor-sharp blade, tossing a cold apology over to Aaron because he just added another brutal quest to his to-do list. Twirling the dagger like an absolute menace, he slices right into his own flesh. Without missing a beat, he locks eyes with Aaron, flashing that signature devilish grin, and commands him to follow suit. Leveling up pain tolerance is mandatory. Aaron does not strictly have to use the blade, but he absolutely must learn how to tank pure agony without flinching. The MC slides him some booze to take the edge off. He knows it is brutal, but if Aaron wants to roll in his squad, unlocking that pain endurance stat is non-negotiable. Catching wind of this bloody ritual, the archer girl nervously asks if she is next on the chopping block. He brushes her off, saying it is not a must for her class, though having it in her back pocket would not hurt. Voice shaking like a leaf, she begs for a rain check on the torture. He gives her a pass, dropping the intel that her ultimate goal right now is mastering the weapon switch mechanic. Mastering that will let her seamlessly swap between dual daggers and her bow, turning her into a lethal threat at any range without skipping a beat. He rips up their old playbook. The standard close, mid, and long-range setups are officially trash. From this second forward, they are rocking a tight triangle formation, shielding Elka right in the dead center. The hellish boot camp kicks off tomorrow, and attendance is completely mandatory, yes, even for the squishy archer, simply because he and the spearman cannot body block every single hit meant for their fragile mage. They are basically running a heavy VIP escort mission, and failure is not an option. In a perfect world, a god-tier squad runs double mages, especially if one is stacking pure support buffs. Tragically, they are stuck with just her. They have not even conquered the boss on floor number 9 yet, but our MC is already doing the math. He wagers the higher-ups will deploy the B team to farm some badly needed XP. Fast forward, he is geeking out over the cryptic mission clues, brainstorming the chaotic nightmares waiting to ambush them on floor number 10. We are talking full-blown subjugation, raw survival, escort duty, violent breakthroughs, brutal executions holding the line, massive sieges, high-speed chases, and desperate escapes. Running the simulation in his head, he figures this raid demands an absolute minimum of 2 stacked parties. It hits him hard. This gauntlet is going to be infinitely more toxic than any dungeon they have survived so far. Flicking a lit match straight into the iron brazier, he recklessly plunges his own bare hand right back into the roasting fire, swearing they have to be prepared for absolute war. Thick, choking smoke floods the entire room, leaving him hacking his lungs out while he stubbornly keeps grinding. Ding, a holographic system alert pops up, mission accomplished. The fire resistance perk is officially unlocked. Bright and early the next morning, he pulls Elka aside, delivering a harsh ultimatum. She absolutely needs to slash her spellcasting speed and stop chugging through her mana pool so fast, even if it massively nerfs her raw damage output. This deeply offends her mage pride, and she fiercely demands to know why he is disrespecting her magical arts. Unfazed, he shoots her an ice-cold death glare, daring her to drop out if she cannot handle the heat. The fiery girl instantly folds and sprints away, yelling back that she will follow his crazy orders. From his tactical analysis, she wields 3 distinct tiers of pyromancy: basic ignition, area of effect blazing fireballs, and precision-guided explosive blasts. Obviously, the higher the damage tier, the faster it drains her blue bar. Gripping his broadsword, he corners the archer girl, totally acknowledging the mage's raw destructive power. But to actually make it viable in combat, they have got to hyper-boost her combustion rate. He shouts out a grim reminder to the whole squad. The clock is ticking down to floor number 10, so the difficulty of this boot camp is getting cranked up to extreme. Jenna just flashes a cocky grin, fluidly drawing back her bowstring and letting a deadly shot fly. Usually our guy would turtle up behind his massive shield during these drills, but today, he kicks the heavy armor aside, instantly dialing up the risk factor. She hypes up his insane progression speed, but his face remains deadpan. He coldly snaps back that they are in the middle of a life-or-death drill, not a fan meet and greet. In one fluid motion, he slashes his heavy blade through the air perfectly, splitting the incoming arrow cleanly in 2 and instantly unlocking the projectile parry perk. Jenna suddenly blitzes him with a drawn dagger. He seamlessly bends backward, dodging by a hair, but in a fraction of a second, she quick swaps to her bow, mid-air flexing flawless weapon switching. Raising his blade defensively, he tracks her movements with wide eyes. It suddenly hits him, even though the system originally classed her as garbage tier trash. Her hidden potential is completely off the charts. Her ability to absorb new combat mechanics is terrifyingly fast. Forgetting his own rule, the hero actually praises her sick combo, which earns him a smug, sarcastic clapback about how they absolutely are not supposed to be handing out participation trophies during combat drills. Meanwhile, his spear-wielding buddy is crawling along exactly like you would expect a low-tier NPC to progress. The only saving grace keeping him relevant is his Tier 3 polearm mastery. Locked in his room, our guy is straight up torturing himself, just to unlock the pain resistance passive. Meanwhile, the mage girl is posted up in the magic hall, tweaking her cast times to be lightning fast instead of just dropping slow nukes. A bunch of one-star fodder heroes are grinding in the corner, but honestly, they are total dead weight. Both squads are still short of the 5-man cap, and it looks like the master is going full free-to-play, refusing to swipe his card for more gems. Our boy is sweating, wondering if the guy actually plans to slot those useless 1-stars into the main lineup. Cut to the next day, Squad 2 stumbles out of the portal, having just survived Floor 9. They are looking absolutely cooked. He instantly corners them, demanding the full rundown of the raid. The dark-haired girl gasps out that they had to wipe an entire goblin settlement off the map. His instincts kick in. He presses her for the weird details, any hidden red flags. She mentions the turf was a swampy mess, almost like it had just been hit by a massive downpour. Other than that, nothing suspicious. But the clock is ticking. It is finally their turn to drop in, so he rallies his crew. They breeze through the warm-up, just farming the low-tier zones without breaking a sweat. Right now, our main character is sitting pretty at level 10. The archer girl is trailing at level 8, Aaron just hit level 6, and the mage is bringing up the rear at level 4. That is the literal level cap for their current progression rate. Plus, they are dripping in decent gear, all thanks to farming the crafting factory. They have also dragged 2 newbies, Shern and Meekin, into the mix. Sure, their stats are straight trash compared to the originals, but beggars cannot be choosers. Out of nowhere, the fairy zips over, buzzing with absolute hype, and begs to know if he has already read the script for the next quest. He shoots her down, admitting he is not a psychic, even with his past life street cred as the game's undisputed #1 player. Back then, grinding to floor 88 swallowed 2 whole years of his life. We are talking endless trial error and brutal squad wipes. But here, a wipe means game over, permanently. The tension is thick as the crew huddles up in the plaza, staring down the glowing rift. Our boy's mind is racing as the player behind the screen getting cold feet. It has been a solid 30 minutes since the guy logged on. The master is literally agonizing over hitting go on floor 10 or just stalling for time. Honestly, our hero feels like their roster is super scuffed, mostly thanks to the fresh meat dragging down their combat rating. Not to mention, he has not even maxed out his own 1-star skill tree yet. Then boom, the master finally clicks, accept. The rift tears open. To the guy holding the phone, it is just pixels, but to our hero, this is blood, sweat, and survival. He grabs the rookie, ordering him to camp in a corner. The second aggro hits, or he will just be meat shielding. Off-screen, a system prompt flashes, pinging the master that he can roll for free units to fill the empty roster slots. On top of that, it unlocks the tactical station feature, letting the player micromanage the squad's movements mid-raid. Our boy internally groans, there is no way this casual player knows how to use the tactical station. That is top-tier gameplay. So he uses the fairy to backdoor, a massive hint, equip those crafted heals immediately. They have 6 vials ready to pop, meaning 3 per squad. Right before stepping through, he locks eyes with the dark-haired girl, warning her the spawn points might be randomized. Rush the center coordinate to link up, he commands. The fairy chimes in, yelling at the crew not to grief the main character. He brushes it off with a smirk, promising the fairy he is going to drag her to the absolute peak of this tower. Loading into the map, the first thing they see is some dude absolutely sobbing, terrified of an incoming bloodbath. Our guy sneaks up and lands a clean kick on him, but the man does not even flinch. It clicks, this dude is just a phantom NPC. Scanning the horizon, the architecture hits him with massive deja vu. Dika chimes in, confirming they have definitely raided this map before, but the vibes are completely twisted. Suddenly, the memory unlocks. This is the exact same hub from floor 5. Only one catch, it has not been reduced to rubble yet. Our boy's stomach drops. The lore just got insanely deep. He tells the squad that surviving the mobs is not the real issue. It is the massive red flag of why the system spawned them in this specific timeline. Step 1 to staying alive, actually clear the objective. The user interface has not flashed, start yet, buying them a crucial window to catch their breath. But they cannot just chill, they need to hoard intel fast. He barks orders, split up scout for exactly 5 minutes and meet back. Anyone late gets left in the dust. With the team dispersed, he scales a massive watchtower, getting a perfect bird's eye view of the entire warzone. Right at his feet, a random guard is curled in a fetal position, violently shaking and whispering about death. The guy's mental state is totally shattered. Peering over the edge toward the northern tree line, our hero spots an absolute sea of goblins swarming toward the gates. His tracker counts exactly 2,213 targets, but their combat stats are completely blacked out. The horde is hauling massive siege ladders to breach the barricades. Snapping his focus, he pivots to scan the eastern riverfront. Our guy pans his vision and spots another massive goblin horde, 8,989 ugly mugs in total. They're rocking basic starter gear, with zero siege equipment to scale the walls. Peering closer, he catches roughly half that eastern swarm, buzzing right outside the fortress, facing a pathetic defensive line of only 353 human guards. Do the math, and every single guard is about to get swarmed by over 10 bloodthirsty monsters. Taking in this absolute nightmare, our boy knows they are basically cooked. The odds are astronomically bad, and the system hasn't even dropped the official quest yet. He mentally crosses his fingers, praying this turns into a pure survival check, exactly like that brutal 5th floor run. If they just have to stay alive, they actually stand a fighting chance. Outlasting the clock in a survival trial is totally doable. Honestly, this stage could even be a cakewalk compared to the 5th floor, since they aren't dragging around deadweight this time. Now, they've got cannon fodder NPCs to pull aggro plus an absolute powerhouse mage, ready to spam AoE attacks and melt crowds. But speculation time is over. He slides down the watchtower and regroups with his squad waiting anxiously below. He immediately jumps into his survival theory, breaking down how they just need to endure the siege, but mid-sentence, 3 glowing red alert windows violently flash across his vision. One siren usually means you're in deep trouble, so 3 back-to-back alerts scream apocalyptic boss-level difficulty. The sheer panic hits him like a truck. A fresh system prompt materializes, commanding them to absolutely prevent the city's destruction. The realization drops his stomach. This isn't a hide-and-seek survival round at all. Forget saving their own skin, they have to babysit an entire crumbling kingdom. Counting both squads, they barely scrape together 10 players, backing up a measly 350 guard NPCs. That means a microscopic force of 360 defenders is expected to wipe out thousands of rabid goblins. Clapping his hands to snap the crew out of their shock, he announces they need to pool their intel right now before he hands out the battle rolls. The archer girl chimes in first, venting that the locals completely blanked her when she tried chatting. These NPCs are literally deaf to players, even though they have solid hitboxes and physical bodies. Stepping up next, the spearman reports that the helpless refugees are tightly packed, right in the city square. The Green Menace is purely pushing from the north and east. Meanwhile, the south and west walls are completely solid brick, which means running away isn't an option. Looking completely stressed, the dark-haired girl desperately asks our MC for the game plan. He bluntly states they're defending the turf. When she pushes for the actual mechanics of that, he breaks it down. They block the breach and slaughter everything trying to cross the walls. Pure, unadulterated combat. She immediately snaps back that it's a suicide mission. The muscle-bound warrior jumps in, pitching a stealth strat, sneak outside the walls, and assassinate the horde. One green punk at a time. Our boy instantly shuts that down. To clear this stage, they can't just pick off stragglers. They have to obliterate the entire army. He guesses the enemy's main win condition is smashing that twin statue parked right in front of the central spire. He locks eyes with the towering sculpture of the 2 goddesses, and right on cue, the stone ignites with a blinding magical aura. This exact monument popped up in previous floors, screaming pure plot relevance. If they somehow manage to wipe the mob, but let that statue crumble, they get an instant game over. Catching on to this nightmare, the old man bitterly complains that on top of fighting a literal war, they are stuck playing escort mission for a giant glowing rock. He then drops the heavy question, what's the penalty for failing? Han doesn't even blink as he drops the truth bomb. Mission failure equals instant unavoidable death. Roderick starts sweating, asking if they still get wiped, even if they ditch the city and run. Han nods, confirming there's no out-of-bounds safety. The second that objective breaks, their heads are rolling. He fully grasps the insane pressure, yet his gamer instincts kick in. This is still a system-generated trial. Even the most broken rigged stages have a hidden cheese strat. Locking onto his plan, he tells the squad, the real danger isn't the monstrous head count, it's the siege ladders being pushed by the northern vanguard. Those mobile carts are their VIP pass over the ramparts, so turning them to splinters is their only way to stall for time. He forcefully orders Edith's crew to lock down the northern barricade, joining forces with the 300 human guards stationed there. Their only objective, burn those siege engines to the ground. She registers the command, and her face completely drops. Reading her hesitant vibe, he asks if she wants to challenge the play. She quickly clarifies that bringing her tiny 5-man roster to a 300-man defense line feels like throwing a cup of water on a house fire. Our MC concedes the math, but internally he knows her squad's raw stats easily rival 50 standard soldiers. He breaks it down for her. These monsters don't have ballistas or catapults. Those wooden ladders are their only win condition. If she can anchor that northern breach and crush the carts, the entire fortress becomes an impenetrable brick wall. But Edith shakes her head, clarifying the actual issue. Stalling the mob doesn't magically clear the quest. Even if they drag out the siege, the sheer numbers will eventually crush them under massive weight. Our boy nods, totally agreeing with her grim reality check. Teaming up, not gonna cut it. The math is completely rigged against them, and those green freaks are bound to shatter their defenses. It is purely a numbers game. Plus, his brain flashes back to the 5th floor. Those monsters were absolute psycho tryhards. They took massive casualties back then and never even flinched. Retreat just is not in their vocabulary, meaning this wave will be just as suicidal. On paper, this stage looks totally unbeatable. You cannot just unga-bunga your way through a literal endless horde, but the system always drops breadcrumbs. Suddenly, a memory from the 7th floor clicks into place. An eastern river rushing past a shattered dam. Back then, he totally wrote it off as just heavy water pressure doing its thing. But now, piecing together the clues from floor 5 all the way to 10, it all points straight back to that exact same structure. That thing is miles away from the walls, begging the question, what actually wiped it out? His brain is running on overdrive, but the clock is ticking too fast. Out of nowhere, our archer girl drops a major bombshell. She heard galloping hooves across that exact river earlier. Could they be the missing city cavalry? The second those words hit his ears, our MC pieces the puzzle together. Those were the backup troops. The raven-haired girl finally joins the huddle. He spins around, staring her dead in the eyes, and gives one critical mission stall for time. If the outer perimeter crumbles, she needs to ditch it and fall back to the inner sanctum. No second guessing. Even if it means tossing the NPC soldiers and refugees out as meat shields, she has to do it. Her only job is keeping that stronghold breathing until the squad gets back. Squaring their shoulders, her crew locks in and swears to hold the line. With that, our boy and his squad roll out. Striding alongside him, Jenna raises an eyebrow. The master plan sounds way too bare bones, and she wants the actual tea on their next move. Han hits her with a savage reality check, bluntly stating the raven-haired girl has way more brain cells than her before ordering her to prep her gear. Their target, the Eastern Gate, leading straight into no man's land. Aaron is sweating bullets, demanding to know why they are practically speedrunning toward death. With thousands of bloodthirsty freaks lurking right outside, Han lays it out flat. Hiding inside those walls is just a slower way to die. They have to gamble everything right here, right now. Think about it, by the time they hit floor 7, that structure was already in ruins. Add in the archer, spotting the cavalry stranded on the opposite bank. Connect the dots, and the plot twist hits like a truck. The stronghold fell because the backup literally could not cross. That busted dam was the massive roadblock, ruining the whole rescue op. So the new meta, smash through the eastern gates, carve a bloody path through the horde, and secure that infrastructure before it gets nuked. They have to keep that barrier intact at all costs. The girl gasps, finally catching on to his insane logic, but he silences her with a cold smirk. They are not just surviving, they are about to wipe these monsters off the map. Smash cut to the massive iron doors of the stronghold. Absolute chaos. A tidal wave of panicked civilians is swarming inside, making it nearly impossible for our squad to push forward. The mage is already whining about the mosh pit, but our boy shuts it down. This little traffic jam, a total joke compared to the nightmare waiting outside. Han, Jenna, and Aaron sprint toward the outer barricade. He barks an order at the archer, telling her to scale the bricks and get a bird's-eye view of the danger zone. Simultaneously, the spearman gets his marching orders: crank that massive gateway open, and do it fast. Then his eyes lock onto Iolka. It is time to charge up her mana pool and prime stage 2 of her absolute most lethal Inferno spell. The second those heavy doors part, she promises to let it rip. Our boy then slowly pivots his gaze toward the 5th wheel of their raid group. Honestly, the absolute newbie brings zero utility to this insane raid, so Han brutally just ghosts him and moves on. Flexing hard, the blonde warrior yanks the heavy chains. The colossal metal barrier groans as it inches upward, catching the grinding echo. Local guards instantly sprint toward the mechanism. Because the squad is practically invisible to NPCs right now, the approaching footsteps seriously spike their anxiety. The guards freeze, violently muttering to each other, absolutely terrified that the barricade is moving by pure ghost logic. Meanwhile, our archer scales the high ground and peeks over the edge. Her blood runs cold. A literal sea of green mutants is foaming at the mouth right outside the threshold. She screams down a warning. If that seal breaks, the horde is going to flood the zone instantly. Unfazed, the MC tells her to chill, ordering her to drop back down to ground level immediately. Iolka's blazing nuke is about to carve a perfectly crispy red carpet right through the mob. Without missing a beat, Han violently intercepts the NPCs trying to shut down Aaron. Since he is basically a phantom to them, they can only track the levitating ropes and lunge forward to grab them. Reinforcements swarm the area, screaming in pure panic about demonic possession and cursed magic. The agile archer drops low, sweeping their legs with flawless kicks and turning the guards into a massive tumbling dogpile. On the flip side, the mage finally caps out her casting time. Searing heat radiates through the air as the heavy iron cracks wider. But out of nowhere, a high-velocity projectile snipes straight for her head. With god-tier reflexes, our MC snatches the shaft mid-air. One glance tells him the green freaks outside are already taking pop shots. Through the tiny sliver of open space, hideous goblin faces are already shoving against the metal. Cold as ice, my guy hurls the projectile right back through the crack, instantly one-shotting the sneaky rat trying to squeeze through. Behind him, our archer is absolutely styling on the blind NPC guards. Getting wrecked by invisible blows, the desperate soldiers start weeping, utterly convinced their holy goddess has left them to die. A sudden downpour starts slicing through the air. Han glances up, a dark thought crossing his mind. Is this storm going to drown out Yoka's firepower? Aaron strains against the heavy ropes alone, his muscles bulging as he pries the massive iron gates open. The second there is a gap, a terrifying green wave of goblins floods inside. Their bloodshot eyes instantly lock onto the ultimate threat, the mage standing dead center in front of the entrance. But before the swarm can even blink, she finishes her chant and triggers her ignite skill. A blinding tsunami of pure hellfire erupts from her staff, swallowing the monsters whole and detonating right at the choke point. The entire front line is vaporized into absolute ash. Han immediately barks at the squad to push up. He tosses a shimmering mana potion into the mage's hands, ordering her to keep taking hits of it so the fire never dies. She shoots him a confident smirk, boasting that she could nuke this battlefield 100 times over without breaking a sweat. Off to the side, their fifth member is literally shaking in his boots. A system window flashes, revealing that his raw terror just tanked his stats by a massive 30%. Our boy has zero time to babysit dead weight. He orders the rookie to fall back to the secondary squad, where someone can actually hold his hand. Survive back there and he earns his spot. The kid nods frantically and scrambles away in a heartbeat, leaving our hero to finally cross the threshold. The garrison desperately cranks the iron doors shut behind him, but Han just marches straight into the belly of the beast, a wasteland of scorching ash and screeching monsters. Hearing the heavy metal slam closed, reality sets in. No retreat, no backup. It is absolutely do or die. He barks out a tight defensive formation, locking himself, Aaron and Jenna, in a protective ring around their heavy artillery, Yoka. He commands her to spark up stage 1. Flames fully aware that the pouring rain is going to aggressively fight her magic. She blankets the zone in fire, but the sky cracks open, pouring absolute buckets. Han screams for them to hustle before the horde realizes the rain is nerfing their firewall. Yoka grits her teeth. She needs exactly 20 grueling seconds to charge her next blast. But 20 seconds is a lifetime on this battlefield. The swarm closes the gap, and a feral goblin lunges straight for Han's throat. Without even flinching, he cleaves the beast perfectly in half. His brain becomes a ticking metronome, tracking the agonizing countdown. Enemy archers draw their strings, raining down arrows aimed right at their squishy mage, but Han instantly raises his shield to tank the deadly volley. The squad transforms into an impenetrable wall as the clock drips down. Jenna dances through the chaos seamlessly, swapping between her lethal bow and swift dagger to execute stragglers. The mental clock ticks away. Only 5 brutal seconds left until ignition. Jenna is a blur of deadly precision, and the blonde tank swings like a complete juggernaut. But in the frantic melee, a rogue goblin slips right into Aaron's blind spot. The blonde warrior is completely oblivious, but Han's battlefield awareness is unmatched. With zero hesitation, he launches his blade like a spear, piercing the monster right through the skull. He dashes in to rip his weapon free, right as that painfully long timer hits 0. A terrifying ring of green skin and jagged blades has Yoka completely boxed in. Han roars for the crew to shift formation and duck behind her. Her eyes snap open, glowing with raw mana. Another devastating wave of ignite obliterates the space in front of them, reducing dozens of monsters to smoking craters. The blinding flash clears, revealing a perfectly charred runway. Han seizes the moment and signals the aggressive charge. Sprinting through the glowing embers, our boy realizes they hit the absolute jackpot, recruiting this powerhouse mage. Without her insane damage output, they would be goblin food by now. But the brutal downpour is actively winning the war, washing away their protective, fiery barricade, and giving the horde an opening to swarm back in. He screams for her to start casting again, slicing through the vanguard to buy her the desperate seconds she needs. The dreaded 20-second timer restarts. Every single heartbeat feels heavy as the squad battles for pure survival in the mud. It becomes an exhausting dance of death, blocking, striking, and holding the line against an endless sea of green flesh. Right at the buzzer, an ambush strikes from Han's blind side. His killer instincts flare up a split second before impact. He pivots on a dime, decapitating the sneaker in one fluid arc. The squad perfectly executes their tactical shuffle, stepping back right before Yoka unleashes hell once again, melting a fresh tunnel through the mob. They push deeper, using the fading inferno as a physical shield. Eren bulldozes through the ash with Jenna pushing her agility to the absolute limit right on his heels. Han yells that they will rinse and repeat this brutal cycle until they hit the river. But as the smoke parts, the true scale of the nightmare is revealed. An ocean of goblins stretching to the horizon, led by their towering warlord, who stands totally unbothered on a massive boulder, just radiating absolute boss energy. This commander is built entirely different from the grunts. He unsheathes a nasty blade, thrusts his fist into the stormy sky, and unleashes a blood-curdling war cry to shift their tactics. Boom! Another massive ignite scorches the earth, wiping a whole battalion off the map. Han immediately sprints into the fiery breach, but suddenly, a psycho goblin dives headfirst right through the roaring flames. The ambush is so unhinged that Han barely evades, letting muscle memory take the wheel to dodge the lethal blow. He plunges his blade deep into the monster's chest. As the body drops, Han notices a chilling shift in the enemy's vibe. The fear of fire is completely gone. These beasts are now throwing themselves blindly into the blaze. Two more rush him, but Han steps into the strike, eviscerating both with a brutal sweeping attack. His eyes finally lock onto the alpha on the rock. The warlord is barking out guttural, twisted syllables, some dark magic or elite battle commands. It violently clicks in Han's head. That commander is not just screaming. He has perfectly timed the cooldown of Yoka's nukes, exploiting that exact 20-second window to send his troops on a coordinated suicide rush. This dude isn't just a brainless mob, he's actually strategizing, which dials the threat level up to 11. Our boy keeps slashing through enemies, shooting worried glances at his squad. They are barely holding the line, and their stamina is totally tanking. The blazing inferno around them is literally choking the oxygen out of the air. Even with heat resistance buffs, they are absolutely roasting. Time for a backup plan. While he brainstorms, like 3 or 4 green pests ambush him from the high ground, but he just channels his aura and completely one-shots the whole squad in a single clean sweep. He immediately rallies the crew, demanding their full attention. He makes it crystal clear they have exactly one shot at this, and fumbling is not an option. His buddy looks totally confused, so our guy lays out the ultimate do-or-die strategy. They get one tiny window to snipe that smug goblin boss flexing on the boulder. Right on cue, the commander screeches, sending his massive horde rushing in. Meanwhile, the mage girl is already cooking up a heavy spell. A scorching firewall erupts around her, stonewalling the main assault. But a couple of stragglers manage to squeeze past. One sneaky gremlin leaps right out of the flames, aiming for our hero's neck, but his reflexes are insane. He violently knees it in the face, shattering its teeth on impact. Before its body even hits the dirt, he snatches its head and drags it straight toward Yelka. A volley of arrows rains down on her, so our guy literally uses the goblin as a meat shield to tank the hits. He desperately checks if her spell is locked and loaded. She gives the green light and unleashes an absolutely colossal firestorm. The devastating blast incinerates an insane chunk of the goblin army into pure ash. Panicking, the enemy commander starts barking fresh commands, forcing the surviving grunts into a totally reckless, suicidal stampede. Realizing one massive attack will not cut it, our boy mentally screams at the monsters, refusing to back down just yet. Boom, a second massive detonation violently rocks the entire battlefield, trapping them inside a gigantic ring of flames. Even that cocky goblin boss suddenly looks, sweaty and terrified by the raw power. Taking advantage of the smoke, Jenna and Eren instantly pop off. The tank pops his hero shield to cover the archer, while she aims an insane trick shot straight into the sky. The arrow drops down with absolute aimbot precision, landing a clean headshot on the commander and instantly deleting him from existence. Without their leader, the entire goblin squad totally loses the plot. At the exact same time, the mage girl's knees buckle from completely draining her mana bar. Our boy swoops in, catching her securely in his arms, before she can eat dirt. He glares through the smoke at the lingering mobs, and realizes her crazy nuke did not actually wipe them all out. If those freaks push through the firewall, this party is still in massive danger. But then a crazy realization hits him. The monsters only care about raiding the city walls right behind them. Our heroes were literally just a speed bump. He pauses, watching intensely to see what these mobs do, now that their shot caller is dead. Sure enough, the brainless surviving grunts completely ignore the squad and blindly sprint straight for the fortress, leaving our battered heroes in the dust. He exhales a huge sigh of relief, super glad these creatures chose the city gate over a final deathmatch. Slipping past the chaos, the crew finally drags themselves into the tree line. They have put some serious distance between them and the horde, and thankfully nothing is tracking them down. Our boy knows deep down that sniping the boss was literally the only reason they are not dead right now. If that guy was still alive, he absolutely would have ordered his minions to finish the job. He instructs the squad to catch their breath and ration their health potions because things are still dicey. Right now, a completely separate war is raging over by the northern barricades, but the outer defenses have not crumbled yet, giving our team a brief safety net. He casually strolls over toward the river bridge, only to spot another wave of ugly green faces marching up. A system pop-up flashes 19 level 9 goblins rapidly closing the gap. Realizing their break time is officially cancelled, he barks at the squad to prep for round 2. Out of nowhere, a gigantic tree violently quakes, unveiling absolute nightmare fuel. The blonde dude's jaw literally drops in terror as he frantically points ahead. As the dust settles, a colossal level 23 ogre warrior aggressively steps into view. No hesitation, our boy instantly acts like an in-game leader, assigning combat roles. He tasks the mage girl with stalling the goblin minions, while the blonde guy acts as her personal bodyguard. As for the main event, he is going straight for the raid boss. The split second he closes the distance, the ogre violently slams its weapon down, literally fracturing the earth. Our guy realizes immediately that one clean hit from that club equals an instant game over. The giant wildly swings again, but he swiftly sidesteps it. Because the level gap is so insane, he has to play defense and kite the monster, or he is getting flattened. Back on the sidelines, Yelka summons a towering inferno to zone out the smaller mobs. As the hero and the archer tag team the behemoth, it brutally attempts to grab him, but he perfectly backflips away and slices open its massive arm, drawing first blood. Flanking from behind, Jenna unleashes a flurry of arrows straight into its thick back. The beast roars in agony, giving her false hope that she is actually doing damage. But then it absolutely flexes its insanely dense muscles, literally launching her arrows right back out. Despite the boss being the size of a whole truck, her standard shots are basically just mosquito bites unless she can critically strike a weak point. Because the universe hates them, a second massive ogre aggressively stomps onto the battlefield. Bro gets incredibly stressed because his two teammates are already completely maxed out dealing with the mob wave. He realizes he has to make a crazy gamble, sprinting directly into the first monster's attack range. The behemoth mercilessly swings its massive club down, but this time our boy forcefully angles his shield upward, eating the impact and brilliantly parrying the shockwave. His muscles scream in agony, but he completely tunes it out, closing the gap in a heartbeat. He drives his blade straight into the ogre's kneecap, hitting the sweet spot. The massive beast goes absolutely feral, swinging wildly in a blind rage. Using that chaos to his advantage, our boy vaults right up onto its massive shoulder and plunges his steel deep into its neck, but the hide is way too thick. The blade barely grazes the vitals, so without missing a beat, he launches himself up once more. He swings his shield like a sledgehammer, driving the hilt all the way down. A geyser of dark crimson erupts as the colossal beast goes rigid before crashing heavily into the dirt. With the first beast wiped out, he instantly pivots to lock onto the second giant. But wait, this absolute unit is making a beeline straight for their mage. He signals Jenna to pull aggro. She sinks an arrow perfectly into its back, but the tank just eats the damage, barreling forward like a freight train. Aaron steps up to block, only to get swatted away like an annoying fly. Our guy screams at the top of his lungs, begging her to dodge. But the craziest thing happens. The ogre completely ignores her, blowing right past her spot. Our hero's jaw drops as the terrifying realization hits him. Flashback to the busted dam on floor 7. Those puny goblins never had the hardware to smash it. It was this big guy all along. He screams to his squad over the kitchas, realizing the mage was never the target. That monster is going straight for the dam. Jenna instantly scales the beast's back, raining down relentless dagger strikes on its neck. Our boy slides into the fray, ready to end this right here. He goes all in, carving a massive gash across its spine with one savage horizontal cleave. The beast screeches in pure torment, stumbling blindly before face-planting right into the raging river. Panting heavily, our guy watches from the muddy banks. He lets out a sigh, knowing that was a way too close call. But just as he drops his guard, a massive muscular hand explodes out of the water. The absolute tank rises from the depths, slamming its massive fists right into the dam. The stone shatters, taking the whole structure down in a heartbeat. Over on the far bank, Aaron hypes up that the goblin trash mob is officially wiped out. But our protagonist, dead silent. In his head, it is already game over. The backup squad, supposed to be pulling up from the woods across the water, has literally zero way to cross now. And even if they went all out, there is no stopping the massive ocean of goblins swarming their location. For the very first time, the panic sets in. His brain goes into overdrive trying to salvage this massive L, until his bro grips his shoulder, snapping him back to reality. Tightening his grip on his blade, he knows falling back is the only play. He desperately needs to cook up a plan B, even if his mind is drawing a total blank right now. But just as he turns to bounce, their mage halts him in his tracks. She casually throws up a hand. Her palms glow with insane magical energy as she locks a heavy telekinetic grip onto a massive boulder nearby. His eyes bug out as she effortlessly levitates the giant rock, yeeting it straight into the wrecked bridge gap. It locks in like a literal puzzle piece. But instead of hyping her up, he snaps, completely tilted that she kept this a secret. He rips into her, reminding her they were inches away from a total wipe. She just shrugs it off with zero chill, claiming it was no big deal anyway. Taking a massive breath, he admits surviving is all that counts right now. But that quick breather, yeah, it vanishes instantly. The goblin horde is surging back, looking way thicker than before. One rabid freak lunges at our hero, thrusting a rusty spear right for his skull. He cleanly ducks under it, slicing the green pest clean in half. Amidst the endless slaughter, his mind drifts back to the start of this cursed raid. It has been dragging on forever, and their backup is still nowhere to be found. Paranoia creeps in as he genuinely wonders if they were just left here to rot. He orders the mage to chug every last drop of her mana potion and drop a massive class 2 spell on these freaks. But before she can even pop the cork, a feral goblin launches itself straight for her throat. Our guy spots it, but the distance is just way too wide. He screams her name in pure horror. Yoka freezes up, staring point-blank into the literal eyes of the Grim Reaper. But at the absolute final microsecond, a majestic warhorse crashes into the frame, going full throttle. The knight mounted on top swings his blade, bisecting the goblin like butter. He reins his horse to a halt, instantly pulling the aggro of every single monster in the vicinity, while our boy just stares. Panting heavily, this mysterious savior is rocking pure drip, hiding his identity behind a menacing lion mask. One look at his elite aura, and you instantly know he is the commander of the cavalry. The greenskins completely forget about our squad and swarm the new threat. He throws a fist into the air, roaring the battle cry of the Iron Lion cavalry. In an instant, the deafening thunder of heavy hooves shakes the entire battlefield, as an elite squadron of knights bursts from the tree line. Every single rider packs the same crazy aura as their boss, heavily armored and absolutely bloodthirsty. The system pings with a notification that the Iron Lion cavalry has officially entered the chat. Our guy snaps out of it and orders his crew to rally around the mage. Knowing better than to be collateral damage, they stack up tight, while the knights literally mow down the goblin front lines like a lawnmower. They might only be packing 500 strong, but these guys make the city guard look like absolute jokes. The vanguard completely bulldozes forward, shredding greenskins and carving out a massive safe zone. Jenna quickly clocks that the cavalry is paving a straight highway back to the city limits, leaving nothing but a trail of goblin bodies in their wake. A system pop-up flashes, showing exactly 458 heavy hitters still standing in the regiment. Jenna hints at taking a back seat to enjoy the show, but our guy knows the only smart play is to hustle toward those city gates. Catching sight of two riderless horses standing near their fallen owners, our guy turns to the crew asking who's got riding experience. The girl steps up, prompting him to pick up the reins himself. He breaks it down. Sure, the system blocks the master from throwing hands directly, but playing the ultimate support is definitely on the table. Our hero immediately pings the master, demanding a horseback riding skill book, dropping a cool 500 gems without breaking a sweat. You can't just download combat techniques mid-fight, but snapping up utility buffs like this, absolute light work. Talk about a game changer. Barely a few minutes pass before he completely downloads the riding skill, effortlessly swinging into the saddle right next to Iolka. This massive speed boost completely flips the script. The defensive play is over. It's time to take the fight straight to those freaks. Tearing toward the stronghold, his mind races back to the Eastern Goblin Horde, the exact same mob they completely bypassed near the riverbed. He connects the dots. Those runts are practically useless as long as they're stuck outside the gates. The actual nightmare scenario is unfolding up north. That northern swarm is hauling massive siege carts rigged with scaling ladders, perfectly designed to breach the city defenses. The allied cavalry clearly got the memo, charging headfirst into the northern meat grinder. For a split second, he debates riding their coattails, figuring an easy assist could speed up the quest, but his gamer instincts start screaming. Something is seriously off. The system would never hand out a free win like this. Snapping out of it, our MC completely switches up the play, ordering the squad to detour. They are ditching the main clash entirely to hunt down a different target. Aaron instantly starts sweating the decision, knowing their explicit objective was defending that northern gate. But our boy shuts down the doubt, asking if they seriously believe this is the entire enemy roster. He barks at the crew to pick up the pace, leading the charge straight toward the eastern woods. Just as they make their move, the heavy downpour finally quits. An absolute clutch moment for their upcoming strategy. The tree line comes into focus, and our guy realizes his insane prediction was dead on. The ambush is already set. A squad of goblin riders is lurking in the shadows, locked, loaded, and totally capable of smashing the eastern gate to pieces whenever they felt like it. If he can just weaponize Iolka's spellcasting to blockade their route, they can completely sabotage the sneak attack. But out of nowhere, giant shadows eclipse the runts. The squad freezes reality, hitting them like a truck. Those aren't goblins in the back, they're literal ogres. The exact same raid bosses he barely survived before, but they aren't dealing with a duo this time. There are at least 23 of these absolute units. He nearly got folded, fighting just 2, and now the odds are mathematically insane. He instantly calculates the stakes. If these titans crash the main front line, the entire cavalry is getting wiped off the map. Turning to the mage, he demands a mana check. She admits she's holding onto some juice, but a high-damage nuke is completely out of the question. He tells her to forget about raw damage entirely. The new objective: maximize the area of effect and blanket the entire zone. They're going to speed-run the forest perimeter, while she turns the entire biome into a massive furnace. Meanwhile, back at the northern barricade, things are getting incredibly desperate. The green runts are swarming up the siege ladders, forcing Eddie's squad into an exhausting, endless meat grinder. One defender nearly plummets to his doom when a mob snatches his ankle, but the swordswoman clutches up, saving him by a millimeter. The green tide keeps surging, and she turns into an absolute blender, slicing through them. Mid-swing, something on the horizon catches her eye. The heavy hitters have finally logged in. The lion cavalry crashes into the valley, and the second they make contact, it is an absolute massacre, steamrolling the front line with crazy stats. She watches the carry from the ramparts, almost distracted, until a straggler pops up in her face. Her reflexes kick in instantly, deleting the threat before it can even swing. Cutting back to the tree line, the mage girl's cast time hits 0. She drops a single activation word and her inferno erupts like a shockwave. A massive wall of fire consumes the woods, hard-locking every single enemy in the zone. The ambushing creeps get absolutely roasted, panicking with nowhere to run as the blazing trap closes in from all angles. But unleashing that massive attack leaves her mana tank practically on 0. Our boy reassures her she hard-carried this play, ordering her to shut off her mana flow completely. The ecosystem is definitely getting reduced to ashes, but considering the enemy turned it into a forward base, it's a sacrifice worth making. Nuking the entire staging ground was the optimal strat anyway. With the objective cleared, the squad circles back to base. 500 troops originally held that northern choke point, but by the time backup dropped in, nearly 400 had already been taken out. The ogre squad managed to wipe half the reinforcements later, but thanks to the cavalry's insane damage output, the goblin numbers were reduced to practically nothing. The surviving grunts cleaned up the stragglers easily. The lion cavalry's stats were just on a completely different tier, averaging around 10 to 20 solo kills per rider. Their sheer firepower completely scrubbed the map clean. The aftermath is a brutal wasteland of fallen troops and defeated monsters, but the quest-cleared vibe is undeniable. Every single mob is down. The legendary riders and the battered survivors finally let out a victory roar. Looking down from the stone ramparts, the dark-haired swordswoman catches our main character's squad riding back from the smoking tree line. Across the chaotic battlefield, the two of them share a quiet, knowing smirk. Scanning his system logs, our boy realizes there are 0 casualty pop-ups. His entire party survived the raid, and Jenna gives him the nod to confirm it. She flexes on how insanely overpowered they've gotten since clearing floor 5. But wait, why haven't they teleported back to base? The quest is technically cleared. That realization hits our boy like a truck, and his brain immediately runs the tape back. Slaughtering the goblin horde, crushing their boss, brawling with ogres, calling in backup, torching the woods, and wiping out the stealth units. Every single objective is checked off. So why is the stage still active? But before he can even process the glitch, a massive, glaring red now loading prompt blocks his vision. The entire world just pauses. Everyone is frozen solid except him. Sweating bullets, he frantically scans the area. When another system window pops up, with one word: recovering, he is completely flying blind here. Finally, the dreaded error code flashes on screen: server malfunction, user disconnected. His squad remains locked in suspended animation. While his brain scrambles to decode the bug, a chilling text prompt orders him to look over his shoulder. His pulse spikes as he whips around. Way out in the distance, looming like a nightmare, is that exact same level, 999 entity, the very same boss that locked eyes with him right before he got dragged into this hellscape. Our guy knows that silhouette instantly. Just catching a tiny glimpse of its shrouded face back then had him practically shaking, and that raw panic is flooding right back. He violently curses under his breath. Let's rewind. In his absolute prime, he smashed through the 88th floor, rocking a full squad of 6-star units. The dude was literally rank 5 globally. Now, Pick Me Up is basically a massive pay-to-win slot machine. Masters can issue broad tactics, but you absolutely cannot micromanage a hero's combat moves. But random number generation isn't everything. If your gaming IQ is high enough, pure skill can absolutely gap terrible luck. Snapping back to reality, he stares down this anomaly, a monster rocking stats that are literally impossible unless you're a mythical 7-star unit. Just as he opens his mouth, another wildly out-of-place detail catches his eye. Lurking in the shadow of the beast is a second silhouette. A pitch-black humanoid with a floating tag, reading Dark Disciple level 15. This shadowy freak stares directly into his soul, piercing right through the paused game state, and promises they will be waiting for him. Han is paralyzed, his mind totally blown, completely unable to unpack what that threat even means. Then poof. Both the Titan and its disciple dissolve into the void. With 0 context given, reality abruptly reboots. Glitchy pixels scatter and snap back into their proper physical forms. A fresh dialogue box drops a generic apology for the network lag. Instantly, his archer teammate unstiffens and resumes breathing. She asks what just went down and why he looks like he's seen a ghost. But before she can drop another syllable, he barks at the squad to fall back to the stronghold immediately. His sudden panic spooks the team, but he aggressively pushes them to march, because his gut is screaming that this nightmare isn't over. Galloping back, his brain is just looping that dark disciple's face. A mob with that kind of aura has zero business spawning in the beginner zones, and its sheer presence is horrifying. That red flag alone means they need to dip right now. Out of nowhere, the fingers of a fallen troop spasm. A surviving guard catches the movement, totally bewildered. Then the corpse starts violently warping. Like a rotting parasite is hijacking his anatomy, mutating the dead guy into an absolute abomination. The rookie next to him loses his mind, but way too late. Before he can even draw his blade, the mutated horror lunges and devours him alive.